this is a meme that I just saw today.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to read it. 3 types of people on earth right now. There are only 3. Number 1, those too brainwashed and or in denial to even be able to comprehend that this isn't really happening. That's one. Number 2, those who understand what is happening but are too afraid to voice what they know for fear of judgment. This is what your typical teacher deals with, your typical business owner.
True.
Right?
True. 100%.
Number 3. These are my people. Those who understand and are willing to fight for their freedom and put themselves through ridicule in order to not only save themselves, but the entire planet. And I'm not talking from this global warming stuff. I'm talking we got to save this planet from war, because this could really throw us into war.
Oh, totally. I don't want to totally derail the conversation because we got to get going into the show here. But it literally happened today, so it's worth acknowledging. I haven't fleshed out the details, so I am kind of speaking out of ignorance. But did you see the soldier, the American soldier, that was picked up by North Korea today?
I know that one was picked up.
How
from North
crazy
Korea.
is that?
Yeah, I don't know the story behind it. I don't think we ever will, because we usually don't get the details on those, and probably rightfully so.
Right. Right.
But let's hope he doesn't come back the way some of the other...
Like Otto Warmbier did?
Dead or just
a vegetable in a bed.
Yeah.
But again, the scary part is, okay, we're all humans and we come from a free place, so I could see somebody just having the free will to do crazy things. Again, I'm not going to get in the way of a human being in America that's 40 years old and wants to transition into a pixie. Have at it. You want to make elf ears? Feel free. So I'm not going to deny that there's a good chance that this guy was a risk taker and he just wanted to see what North Korea looked like. That's totally a possibility.
Yeah, I always do question what the hell are they doing there in the first place.
So he's either in South Korea and got nabbed, or he got kidnapped by North Korea as like a negotiating tool. Regardless, to your point, they're not going to give us the full story because they can't equip it. You don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right, you do not.
So there's something to be said. We'll never know, but you kind of reference like the Otto Warmbier situation. So here's a kid, takes a trip to North Korea. I don't believe the story for a second. The video is super small, down a long hallway. He stole a flag, and all you do is see a figure go to the wall, take something, and go away. It could have been anybody. It could have been your grandma that stole that flag. And here's a kid crying in front of a North Korean court saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The sheer fear did not tell me I messed up and I'm sorry for messing up. It's I'm saying what I need to say to, I'm probably not going to live, but to possibly extend this life as long as I can. Weird story. I went to Miami University in Ohio, and my housemate at the time, Otto Warmbier, was a year younger than me, of the same age. My friend went to high school with him because this kid's from Cincinnati, Ohio. And my friend looked at me and said, his dad has a collection of private jets. Not just one, a collection. Do you know what it takes to have a collection of private jets? The fact that this dad is as rich and as connected as he is
and couldn't
get his son home in one piece, what does that say?
That says a lot. I mean, he couldn't even buy a senator to try to put some pressure on him.
I have one jet for you. Please get my son home.
Right? He should have talked to Bernie Sanders.
But let's
I don't
also
think Bernie
remember,
has a jet yet. He's got 9 houses, but no jets.
That's shill. That's shill. But you know what's also funny? The fact that, don't forget, and I want to remind the audience where we were at in that time period. We were on the verge of nuclear war with North Korea. There was not a... Kim Jong-un.
What year was that?
That was 2015 into 16.
Okay,
Kim Jong-un would not meet with a single American, period. And Trump dissolved it all in months.
Oh, absolutely.
In less than.
Yeah. All you had to do was call him a name, and he...
Rocket Man.
You know, I don't know if you know this. I'm a guitar player.
Yeah.
Right? And I started... adding secret songs. Now I'm giving stuff away to the audience. I started adding secret songs into my set list as a Trump supporter, because I don't talk about politics when I play guitar, because they're there to hear Music. They're not there to hear politics. And I play Rocket Man, and I play Pink Floyd Mother, which talks about Mother, should I build the wall?
Yes, I love that. And then you got to throw in there another brick in the wall. Just because you're all a bunch of lemmings.
It doesn't it doesn't work very well on acoustic.
You're right.
But,
yeah, that's true.
But, the whole Mother, should I run for president? Mother, should I build the wall?
But how sad is it that up until this point, we got to there's somebody going, you need to call me they, them, ZZY, QPP, whatever. Yeah. And I have to pretend I don't hold these opinions. These are my ideologies. I have to I went to law school. My grandfather died going into law school. Every day that summer, he'd go, what law schools have you heard from? Are you going to law? Like, where are you getting in? And it was killing me. I was like, Papu, you're going to be the first person I tell. If you don't think it's stressful for you, just know it's very stressful. Sure. I will get back to you. So I finally settled on my law school. Our glorious president and fearless leader was a professor there. I made the joke all the time. What did he teach? Ice cream law. But I looked at my grandfather and I told him, I know what law school I'm going to. And that evening he passed away. It was like a very poetic thing. So I got to tell him the one thing he cared about. In his passing, I got one tie from him. And it's a Donald Trump tie.
Oh, that's terrific.
And it is my most prized possession. Because one, it is the highest quality tie I own, bar none. It is indestructible. And it has a metal placard on the back that says Donald J. Trump. Nice. And I, all through law school, wore that thing and called it my conservative incognito tie. Because it was a highly... White people were the far, far minority at this school. It was in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, run by Democrats. You were not allowed to have an opposing opinion. Conservatives had to hide. The girl, I was dating this one girl. Her best friend was the valedictorian of her class. So this is probably the most brilliant person of their class. She was white. The most influential and outspoken and involved group at our school. It was just everything promulgated. The BLSA, Black Legal Students Society or Association, whatever. Yeah. And she tried making a WOLSA. Not only was she shut down from that, and
oh, you can't do that.
Oh my gosh. They tried taking away her diploma, tried taking away her title as valedictorian, tried really... This girl went through hell and back simply for advocating for a group that balanced what we already have.
Yeah.
My college, my fraternity didn't have a house yet. And for sophomores to live off campus, they had to be staying in a fraternity house. Well, we didn't have one. So our sophomores couldn't do that. The year below me, we just lived in a dorm my sophomore year. The year after me, the school had these things called living learning communities. And they would take a whole floor in a dorm.
They block it off for the fraternity.
It'd be for whatever your group is. Okay. You could be the polo team. And you would apply for a living learning community where we could all have a floor to ourselves.
Okay.
One building had a Latino living learning community, a Muslim living learning community, a Black living learning community. There were every color of the rainbow. And our fraternity guys, they all looked at each other, and they did have two black. That class had two black guys still, but it didn't make a difference. They all looked at each other and were like, what is the one thing we all share? There's no white living learning community, and we're all practically white. And Black Brandon doesn't care. That's what his name was because we had two Brandons, so he didn't care. So they applied as a white living learning community. Not only were they denied, but our whole fraternity got reprimanded.
Of course it did.
It's like, what? Rules for thee, not for me.
That's right. There's no logic. But I got to talk about the tie real quick. My grandfather passed away years and years ago, and my favorite tie was my Cleveland Indians tie that I wore.
I love it.
So that's what he was buried in.
Oh.
So I remember walking up to Grandma, giving her my tie, saying, I think this would go good on Grandma.
Heck yeah. That is awesome.
That was a big deal to give that tie up. I was a big Indians fan.
Especially if you had it today, you'd be it'd be so much more like that's a valuable relic.
Question. Yeah, and it was an MLB official Indians tie. It wasn't a fake tie or anything like that. Yeah.
But it's in the most beautiful place it could be.
Yeah.
That's so perfect. What's funny is this past Friday, Ed Gallick is doing a hit piece on Newburgh Heights' camera tickets, and they need a representative from the court. And I'm all nervous because it was a Friday. I was half asleep. I didn't dress totally in my suit. I just grabbed my red shirt and my Chief Wahoo tie, and it's a nice, and I almost wore it today for the sake of this podcast, but I needed as big of a chief as I could get.
That's right.
So I was kind of worried. I'm sitting there and I go, I'm wearing the wrong tie, and I'm about to be on TV. One of my employers or bosses is a Democrat. The other Republican judge is not going to care. But is this going to come back and bite me in the butt? Is she going to be upset that I didn't take it off? That I should have? This is now an inappropriate attire. She's kind of looked the other way when I wear the tie, but our probation officer wears it every day. Am I a problem?
Were you going to be on television?
Yes. And so I'm worried.
I could see them being. I could see her.
Right.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
I have this thought. What should I do? Should I be worried about this? So I go. She wasn't there. So I go to the only judge that was. And I go, what should I do about this? Like, I want to wear it, obviously. That's the whole reason I started the Rethink Tank. I want to wear it. And he goes, let's be real. You having the thought, he goes, I don't think anybody would have noticed. It would go totally unscathed. It doesn't exist to people. But you having this thought that it might become a problem might lend itself to the fact that it might become a problem.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's your choice, and I respect if you want to stand for something. And ironically, this same gentleman, not to go too narrative, but a very interesting thing happened in our community. So our local town, the school district, came to him multiple months ago and says, Judge, we would like you to do a speech to the students, the seniors and the high school students about sexting and the long-term effects and negatives of getting involved with pornography and sexting. So he was actually really nervous about, he wanted to do it well, and he would come to me, and he put a lot of time in crafting this speech, and he wanted to have a positive impact on the students of his local community. So a week leading up to it, the LGBTQ group of Brecksville was planning on protesting his presence at the school because
they hate him. That's why.
2 years ago, he made a Memorial Day speech that was nothing but uniting.
Yes.
That had a trigger phrase that there were two genders, and that sent liberals through the roof. There were all these hit pieces in the news. So these people would never even have known he existed if he didn't just drop that there were two genders in a speech years ago. So,
well, apparently none of those people paid attention in school. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, biology.
Maybe their teachers should have done a better job teaching them.
Well, but if the teachers are now teaching them their pronouns.
That's true.
So, not to make too much of a narrative, he was asked by the superintendent to step down. We don't want this protest. We'd ask that we could say that this was a scheduling conflict. And he goes, no, I put a lot of work into this, and you asked me to do this. If you don't want me to speak because you're afraid of this mob, then you have to remove me from it.
Yeah.
And he goes, I will not remove myself. So the superintendent goes, okay, no problem, I understand. The next day, they release a press release that said, due to scheduling conflict, the judge cannot come speak. And he was upset. So, my retort to him was, this is my speech to the students. This is something I really take serious.
Yes.
We're going to get to the Chief Wahoo conversation, but to me, and this is what really struck a chord with him, is if I take my tie off or I bend the knee in any way, it's the admission that, yeah, I probably shouldn't be wearing this. We need to take a stand where you need to defeat me. You need to get in a cognitive arena and prove to me, prove to the world I shouldn't have this tie. But of course, that's why the default is cancel you, because I can't actually defeat you, intellectually. So I just need to turn off your ability to feed your family, or whatever the case may be. So, long story short, I wore that tie on the news.
Nice.
You ready to start this thing?
Is it on YouTube? Can
Oh
I watch
yeah.
it? Okay.
Oh yeah. I'll take screenshots on the screen here.
Did the reporter have anything to say about it, on or off the
Oh
camera?
no. Because again, here's the thing. It would stand out to somebody in Atlanta or California, but all the people on the ground here in Cleveland know why it was our representation, the historical background that makes it impactful and respectful, and I think most of us embrace it. So anymore, even if you are this staunch liberal that's out here to cancel people, if you're a Clevelander and you love the tribe, I think that's the one gray area where we're all choosing to look the other way, because it's a part of our heritage. It's our tradition.
Yeah, and no one's really showing up. Well, you're not allowed to show up with headdress anymore. Right. That is like, if you show up with headdress, they're going to take you.
How crazy is that?
They're going to walk you right out of the park. But so that's not happening. It's just a logo on a shirt.
Right. It's just a logo. Ready to start this thing?
Yes. and just real quick before we start, I want real quick riddle for you.
Yeah.
And if you can't answer it, then I'll give you the answer at the end.
Okay.
Of the show here. What do the Democrat Party, the Ohio Communist Party, and the most corrupt union, which is the teachers union, all have in common? You can even just stir on that for a while.
I am going to. Democrats, Ohio Communists.
But I will tell you, it is about a modern political thing that we're dealing with right this very second.
I'm gonna have to
here in
stew on
Ohio.
that. I'm definitely gonna have to stew on that then.
Stew on it.
Man,
For
that's
sure.
a good riddle. You got to check in at the end of the episode to find out why.
Yes.
Let's dive right into this thing.
So I love that term, think tank. Think tank. I mean, you know what a think tank is? Like, how's a think tank go, Jim?
Yeah, they got cancel culture nowadays. You gotta watch what you say. It's getting real scary out here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I can take the conversation here, but we might as well. It's the Rethink Tank. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the Rethink Tank. Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. Today's episode takes us back to the roots of what the Rethink Tank is and why it started to begin with. We are here to save our chief, and then the dialogue is going to evolve to get into some of the nitty-gritty, and I'm very excited, in lieu of that, to welcome my good friend and patriot, Don Lloyd. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Alex.
So before we get into the Chief Wahoo conversation, because that's my attire, first, I want you to kind of give us, because when we go to bourbon nights where our patriots kind of save the world with a little drink, and so you always have the greatest shirts. So there is definitely got to be something to this one.
Oh, yeah, of course. This, well, let's look at the date.
Yeah, are you just that prideful of June?
24th, 22. I see what you did there. I'm actually very prideful of June. It's the month in which I got married.
Oh, awesome.
It was my mom's birthday. Rest in peace to Mom. What else? Father's Day.
Right.
And it's also the day, June 24th, 2022, when Roe v. Wade was overturned.
We're starting off hot.
I refer to myself as an abolitionist. I'm as far as you can go, but I do understand that there will likely be, we'll figure it out.
Right.
But somewhere between never and up until the moment of the head coming out of the birth canal, there's an agreement that can be reached.
Yes.
So, but this is not a topic of today.
Yeah, right. I agree. But, man, a touchy one. I love the shirt. I love the shirt. Now you're making me feel like I need a shirt for my favorite Supreme Court decision, which will be the affirmative action one.
Oh, that's a good one.
So that'll be this year's
That's a good one.
T-shirt.
I still think your gear might be more offensive than mine, according to little 8-year-olds that were standing outside of the Jake back in the day. Remember those days?
And again, those kids didn't have a clue what they were saying, but Mom told them to be upset.
Yes, because Mom was getting checks paid to her from action PACs and all kinds of committees. The story is good about how we got to where we are.
So let's get right into the story. Here's what I really appreciate about opening the dialogue about the Indians and Chief Wahoo, because you and I started and were aligned on our perspective of it. But what I respect about you more than anything is you're staying true. I am a weak person, and I want to have a dialogue on that. Because they took away our chief, and the reason they did that and scrapped the name, and then also created a narrative that all the people that shared an evening with their dad at the Jake was racist. Yes. And that's where my position came in. I'm not tied to Indians, and I just need to support this racist team, or I need to support a mascot that's of another race because I get some joy out of that. The truth is, all I did was really like this memory, and the memory was kind of encased in the experience, the Indians, Chief Wahoo, and what you're saying is experiencing that and enjoying it comes from a place of hate. That's how I interpreted the narrative of having to get rid of the Indians. Well, I didn't hate anybody. All I did was love a time with my dad.
Right.
So I needed to stand up to this. I needed to take a stance. But here was the difficult part. What I loved about the team, the logo, a Cleveland baseball team more than anything, is it was community. It wasn't just a night with my dad. It was the people at work. We all talked about, man, how the Tribe did. Or me and my friends went to downtown to watch us play in the World Series. It was a community thing. The day the Cavs won the championship was the coolest night I've ever experienced that city in my life.
No question.
I mean,
no question.
Were you downtown?
I was not downtown.
It was insane.
I was watching the game.
As you should.
On TV, and I'm not a big Cavs fan, but I happen to watch.
I'm similar. I'm not the biggest Cavs fan, but I'm a Cleveland fan.
Sure, I'm a fan
of experiencing this time in life.
Exactly.
And what made it special was sharing it with all of these people that look different, have different stories and backgrounds, but we all live here, and we all share the damnation of cheering for shitty Cleveland sports teams.
Well, remember that scene in Major League? They're in the, presumably it's a Euclid Tavern, but it's in any tavern that it could have been. And there's the guy with the purple mohawk, and then there's the guy with the collared shirt, and then there's the biker guy. And, Ricky Vaughn strikes the guy out, and they all hug each other. And it's just, that is what Cleveland is about.
Right.
White, black, red.
Exactly.
And
so I was of the impression that we all saw it that way, that we all embraced it the same way.
Yes.
And the biggest shock to me was when it came time, like Cleveland is just a bunch of cucks. LeBron comes back and we just kiss his toes. We stand for nothing here. How cool was it when the Athletics, when Oakland was like, this team sucks and we don't like this LGBTQ thing you're doing on the field, so we're all doing a standout. And there were maybe 3 people in the stands up until the first pitch.
It was the Dodgers.
You're right. The Los Angeles Dodgers. Yeah. I'm combining the two because Oakland, they hate their franchise, and how weird is it that was Los Angeles? That they took a stand against LGBTQ, whatever.
They didn't. The fans waited to go into the park. They eventually did go to the park and they did watch the game, but they stayed away
until the first pitch.
They stayed away for the ceremony.
Which is awesome. So they did a ceremony to a stadium of nobody.
Right.
Do you so I bring that scenario up because I'm of the impression now, I don't think there's anything Cleveland would care about or stand for enough to do that in unison. We stand for nothing here. So I made my point about community. What was scary was how the community was not unified in this at all. Now you've got people who are like, well, I'm only going to wear my Indians gear to the game. But you're still giving them your money. You're still
giving
there.
them the money.
So the first year, Bourbon Nights, I was of the same vein as you. I didn't watch them. I didn't go to the stadium. I did nothing. But at the same time, the friends that I shared that community with that made being in that stadium on Friday, what made that special, those people stood for nothing. Mm-hmm. They kept going. Yeah. And in fact, they made you out to, come on.
They do. They're making us the bad guy.
Exactly. So where I have affection for you still standing out and standing strong, I gave in this year, and it's got an asterisk because I watched every game. Now I just will tolerate its existence. I'll go to an occasional game if buddies have a ticket, or, if it's on TV, they're still my team. But here's my dad, the same guy I'm fighting for this memory. He didn't give a shit. He watched every game. So I'm coming into his office and he's got the game on. And I'm like, I'm sitting there struggling, starving of baseball. I bought myself a Braves tie because I sat there with my dad and I go, the first year where I actually stood out, I go, I need a new team because I can't go without baseball. A month into it, I realized I can't go without baseball.
The Rangers love fans all over the country. And there's nothing wrong with putting on your Braves gear when they come to Cleveland and cheering for the Braves.
Well, I agree.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Which I think is probably, if you want to stand for something, the better. It's still something.
Because Cleveland fans aren't going to beat anybody up.
No. That's back to my point. They stand for nothing.
Right? You try to do that in Atlanta, you're dead, man.
But so the conversation I had with my dad, it's a month into the season, and I'm like, I need a new team because I can't go without baseball. So, Dad, help me pick the most racist team. Because if you're calling me racist and I'm hateful for the Indians, then my next team needs to be the worst one you got.
But there aren't any.
Well, so in the conversation, we're looking at the Rangers because in the Summer of Love, they went to, I think it was somewhere in Texas, one of the airports has a Texas Rangers statue. And they're racist. So the BLM people went in
because we're told they're racist. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in the Summer of Love, they tore down a statue in the middle of the airport. So that was on the list. I was like, Rangers are a good option.
No, Rangers are great, and they're actually playing really good baseball.
Oh man, now to be a Rangers fan,
I think they're going to win the AL.
I think so.
I really think they will, because even the team formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, who are dead to me, by the way. They may be in first place, but you can't. If you're 500 and in first place, it means you still totally suck at what you do.
Exactly. Well, so let me ask you this then. You still seem to be well-informed and involved in a sport that's been a part of you for so long, but you've totally exiled this team. What is that experience like? Like, what's it like still trying to... For me, it was difficult. I couldn't go without baseball, and at the same time, all the people around me are rooting for my city.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And I'm
not. First off, it really frees up your time.
Dude, that's fair.
Right? Summertime, hang out in the pool, not have to get mad about losing games. Don't even have to worry about listening or watching them. That's nice. Right? Saves a lot of money. Saves a lot of money because we would, I have 4 kids. So, when we went to the game, it was expensive to go. We didn't go often.
But it would be a whole...
It would be expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's real nice about it. I still get to, listen to my friends who do watch and support the Cleveland baseball team, and that's fine. They can do that. Right? I have friends that I love and respect deeply.
But do you struggle with that? Like,
no.
You've had no problem cutting it cold turkey?
Once you realize that time is more valuable than
anything,
than major league sports, It's sort of like, when the Browns, the past 20 years when the Browns sucked. This is their year, though, I'm telling you.
Every year is.
The past 20 years, how many? 23, 24 now. This is the 24th year for the Browns. Like, I was a kid when they were, like, awesome. So all this past time, by the time we got to halftime, I was out cutting the grass. Now, it got to the point where I didn't even have to bother watching. If I stopped watching the Browns, I could just have my grass cut.
Right.
By 1:30. Think about that on Sunday.
And again,
have my whole Sunday to myself.
Because you have sacrificed. It's cute to think we're only losing 1-3. Your day is toast on a football Sunday.
Oh, it's over by halftime. Traditionally it has been with one, maybe two occasional seasons.
Well, what I mean is, like, you're talking about your time.
My time. Yeah.
When it comes to a Sunday, especially if you're involved in, like, fantasy leagues, I like to believe I'm only losing those 2 hours for a Browns game. But the reality is, my whole day is shot. I'm going in the next game, and then the next game.
All day long on Sunday. And if there's a game in Europe, which I still don't understand, but if there is a game in Europe, I'm getting up early on Sunday to watch the game at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in Europe.
I'm jealous. I'm truthfully jealous of my friends that moved out to Colorado because they're getting the games at 11. Yeah. They're ending at like 10 o'clock. It's like, that's the most ideal life.
Yeah.
Like, wake up, have a cup of coffee, get your day started, football starts.
Bam.
There's a solid hour and a half that I'm like waiting for the game to start.
Waiting for the game, yeah. Yeah, and it's like 12:30, and it's a good game, and you're kind of like, should I have a beer now?
Right,
I mean, it is 12:30.
Right, it is Sunday.
It's Sunday.
This is the day to do it.
Right, and,
And then, the Sunday night football game is usually a big one.
Yeah.
And you want to watch it, but I never see the fourth quarter because I have a life and I'm a functioning member of society.
Yeah, you have to go to sleep.
Right. So...
But still, we had to talk about the
Yes.
team formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, which, by the way, are dead to me.
Let me ask you,
I haven't
before
mentioned that.
before you get to your comment,
Yeah.
last episode we had a gentleman on that he took the position that he would have rather us be called the Cleveland baseball team over anything else. My question is, had we have chosen something like that, would you take on a different position?
No,
Because it's the admission that something so harmless is racist where it isn't.
Well, I think the leftists that did this need to ask themselves, are they the ones that are really being offensive?
Ooh.
That's what I think they need to do. Because we all know that the little 8-year-old girl who was holding up a sign, I'm not a mascot, or whatever she was holding up, we've all seen the pictures of it, was told to do that by her mom.
Right.
And her mom was told to do that by probably a Cleveland community organizer who handed her money.
Yep.
Or drugs, or alcohol, or all of the above.
You're 100% right.
Right. So look at a map of Ohio, people. Look at a map of Ohio and look at all of the names of all the Indian nations that we have.
I had I'm listening to Joe Rogan. It was the funniest. I had to keep replaying it to my friends because Joe Rogan has a producer that looks things up for him. Jamie is from Cleveland, Ohio. So they're reading this article, and he's like, Jamie, what the hell even is that? Read that. And he goes, Cuyahoga. And it's like, he's like, the Cuyahoga River. What is that? And he just keeps going and finishes his statement. It's like, to your point, everything here is a Native American name, and it's just second nature to us.
Yeah, and I live in Brecksville. In Brecksville, we had Chippewa School.
Right.
We have
On
Chippewa.
Reese Road.
We have Chippewa Road.
Right.
And Miami is an Indian or Native American name.
Well, how about this one? You would go to Miami University.
Yeah.
The school is named after the Miami tribe, which was predominantly located in southern Ohio. Mm-hmm. And it was laughable. You'd go to class, and you'd have kids who are descendants of people from the Miami tribe. And if you are a direct descendant, you get to go to Miami for free. So here's these kids that are going to school for free.
Can you identify as a direct descendant?
That's a great question. That's a good question for Miami's lawyers, and I'd love to test them. But these kids would look at you in class and go, we loved it being called the Miami Redskins.
Of course.
They had to change it. It was a bunch of white people that got upset on our behalf that said it needed to be the Red Hawks and that we're supposed to be offended. We liked that it commemorated us and that we were the focal point of the school. Now we're just a forgotten history. Nobody's going to know. Now, our school's so laughable of Ohio, we were established well before the University of Miami, the U, and yet we're totally confused with each other. We're considered the secondary, background school to the U, right. And now you're totally forgotten as why the name is what it is, who it's to commemorate, and the history to why and again, I always say, make our grocery store aisles diverse again, because if you walk through it, it's just Quaker Oats guys and white dudes everywhere.
White guys everywhere, or no guys.
Yeah.
Right? The Land O'Lakes.
Yeah.
Right? The Indian girl with the one little... was it
and
a
the
girl?
booby knees.
Was it a girl? I think
it was a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could put her knees on her chest and make her...
Yeah. So... I never did that, but I might still have a box at home that I saved for posterity.
It's on the screen.
But take a look at that, right? So what did all these rich white leftists do? What did they do? Well... They got rid of the Indian. They kept the land.
Boom.
It's not called land. It's still Land O'Lakes, but there's no Indian on the cover. Aunt Jemima.
How about what's the Ben and Jerry's? You've got Ben and Jerry's going out here saying we need to give all the stolen land back.
I love this.
And first off, there's no such thing as stolen land. No. None of it. There's been people. Land is land, and they stole it from somebody else. But what's also funny is we need to take back our stolen land. Nobody looks at Ben and Jerry's and goes, "You've got more real estate than anybody else here. If you think this is their land, why are you functioning ice cream on stolen land? Lead the charge. Give it back."
Well, actually, there's a story just the next day that a local Indian tribe did say, "Are you going to give us the land that your factory is on?"
And yet they still function.
Oh yeah, they've been real quiet. They've been real quiet, but they lost like $3 billion in 1 week.
Really?
In value, the valuation. Yeah, of course it's good.
Just like Bud Light, you will never catch me with a Bud.
First off, you would never catch me with a Bud Light because it tastes horrible.
Yeah.
Right? It tastes horrible. But
totally. But also, it's for once you're seeing the conservative side of the market stand for something, which never was the case. I'm amazed how many people see the world as I do, local affiliates, that still use something like Gillette. When that Super Bowl commercial came out and said, boys will be boys, boys will be boys, and they belittled what it meant to be a man, I made the conscious decision that day, you better hope to God women shave their legs with Gillette for the rest of their lives, because my beard will never touch Gillette again.
Right on.
But again, that's forgotten. I'm sick that this is my favorite jersey I own. And where's it at? I'm always going to have this piece of it swoosh.
Right? You have the Nike.
There is no... But a cool position I've taken, I'm not going to throw away my Nike stuff. They've already duped me. I've been playing sports since I was 5.
No, I'm not throwing it away.
I have Sharpied out every Nike swoosh in my wardrobe. You're not going to get the win where you take my money and I lose out on the socks. No. We've had a trade. I need socks, but you'll never see a swoosh on me. This is a relic, and I cannot ruin it. Right. Other than that, you're never seeing Nike.
Well, see, my thing with Nike is this, and you might have been in my wife's class at the time. Did she? Yeah, so you had her. So I'm as much of a dog lover as I am a lover of Native Americans and Indians, because some of the Indians call themselves Indians people. This is a fact.
Yeah, a fact.
Right. So that's just what it is. When Nike hired Michael Vick,
okay,
or re-sponsored him,
yeah,
my kids, I have 4 boys, just the 4, all athletes, and I'm like, listen, guys, there's no more Nike.
Good. That's awesome.
We're not doing it. So don't ask for Nike shoes. Now, if your sports team has Nike gear, there's nothing I can do about that because they got to wear the uniform that their coaches buy for them.
Right,
but no,
exactly.
No Nike shoes. And so it was banned in the house. I didn't burn the old
How
stuff.
much Under Armour you got, though?
We have a lot of Under Armour.
Yeah, baby.
The boys like Adidas.
Good.
They do. And
Because you know what? Personally, I still think that's the highest quality of all 3.
yeah, and it's a nice wider shoe.
Yeah.
I have a wide foot.
I agree.
K-Swiss is actually for fat, wide foot people like me, that is the best shoe.
Really?
There is. And I don't think slaves make K-Swiss.
No.
I don't
Isn't
think
that
they do.
refreshing to hear?
Yeah. I mean, they might.
Yeah.
You
Let's
never
be
know
real.
about them Swiss, right? So, but so the Indians.
Yes.
So the way the story goes is that fans actually started calling them the Indians after Louis Sakalexis.
Yep.
Became a big star on the show on the team.
He was the first Native American in the American League.
Yeah, and they were the Spiders then
Correct.
at the time.
And again, the jury is still out if he's the first Native American in the MLB. There may have been another in the National League, but he is the first Native American in the American League of the first in the league, period.
Okay. But after the AO was formed, they did have several different names that they went. The team that we have now moved from Grand Rapids, and they became the Cleveland Lakeshores, the Bluebirds, as they called the Blues, the Naps after a player manager named Nap Shelsky or something like that. It wasn't until 1947 that the Chief actually came around. 1947 was when the owner at the time, and I can't remember the name of the owner, got somebody to make a logo.
Oh, cool.
So that was the first time.
And they were still called a different team, or were they the Indians at that time?
They were the Indians. For the longest time, they were called the Ball Club in Cleveland. That's what they were called. If you ever watched the movie, is it 9 Men Out?
Yes.
9 Men Out. There's a scene there where the manager of the White Sox, the Black Sox, talks about we beat the ball club in Cleveland instead of saying the Indians, right? Because they would talk about the Yankees and all these different teams, but they call them the ball club in Cleveland. And that was, I can't remember what year that was.
Wow.
So there was a time when they just didn't have a name.
Okay.
As well, and
which again
but here we are, and
let's just acknowledge what got us the name was, and that's why I like you referencing the propaganda picture of an 8-year-old Indian girl.
It is pure propaganda.
What's funny is, how did we get the name? An 8-year-old girl back in the 40s wrote an article or submitted a letter to the newspaper, which they printed, as to why they should call themselves the Indians. And it compelled the people to try to commemorate Louis Sakalexis and embrace. First, they called him the Chief. That's kind of where that title came from, is we had the one Native American in the league, or at least in our half of the division, and we're going, the Chief. Here's our Chief, the Chief. And the girl compelled the city on that we want to commemorate an impactful moment in our history, and something that really we rallied behind and was a uniting figure for everybody. Then all the people voted and compelled the city to do that. So what's funny is, when the Indians are racist and we take away the name, bitch, we're going to tell you what the next name is. It's the Guardians.
Oh,
We
exactly.
have decided. But
Exactly.
how did we get to the Indians? The people decided.
The people decided.
An 8-year-old white girl did a nice, sweet letter and compelled the community, and all of us, white, black, purple, and orange, Clevelanders, all were like, yes, I support that. That's what we should be called. So I think there's a unique piece of that history, as what took it away was this propaganda picture of an 8-year-old Indian girl, but what compelled everybody was an open-hearted white girl who saw beyond these stupid lines that we recreate and make up every day.
Yeah. Well, I also think that in school we would get taught about the bad things that the government and the white people in the government did to the Indians. Right. We were taught about those things, but then we were also taught about taught about how we found ways to honor them as well and recognize our mistakes. And maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's a little janky, but we named our streets after Indian names, Huron and Lake Huron and all of these Native American words are now part of our culture, and it's our way to look back at our history, because you can't look back at Ohio and not realize that this was the land of the Indians.
But sir, you are not commemorating. You are not supporting. You are appropriating.
Well, I have never seen a single Native American give a really good argument as to why it's offensive.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of them give a lot of really good arguments that said it's not at all offensive and we appreciate it.
Right. I have not found, there is not a Native American that takes on that stance that isn't playing the victimhood, the victim mentality.
That's right.
And they're all of the same, their fingers are the same hand. They're all leftists.
Yes.
But there is no true Native American that finds offense in this, because one, they understand, like, it wasn't you, and it wasn't even your dad. It was lineages beyond all of us. And you're looking at somebody who looks different than you because of their white skin and encompassing them in a group when I've done the math. Go to my videos, the 4th of July video that just came out. If only 1.2% of people in America own slaves, and that was at a time where now, fast forward the clock, only 9% of our country, including slaves at the time, are descendants of the 1840 crew. You're looking at 335 million people who were desperate and looking for a new beginning in anywhere else but America or Africa, came here, and you're looking at them and saying, you're the bad guy, you owe me land, you are sitting on something stolen. Stolen? I came here for a new beginning. I had nothing to do with this. And now I owe you a reparation that I didn't fuel and I can't fund. I don't have the money. I'm just trying to come here for a new beginning, and now I'm being damned with sins that I didn't even commit.
Right.
We're in a weird place. So you have much more impactful topics that I don't want to leave.
But I got.
So let's wrap this.
I got to wrap this up. So I had. I can call out somebody, right?
Please.
Okay. So I had lunch at a luncheon with Matt Dolan, who is he's an owner of the Indians.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, of the team formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, who, by the way, if I haven't
love
mentioned,
you for that.
are dead to me.
I love that. I'm still, because again, you've made the conscious decision. That is a cool articulation.
I'm never gonna. I can be relentless,
but I'm always gonna call them the Indians. I don't care what you say. They're the Indians, but I like your acknowledgement. The team formerly known.
So he came and spoke at a luncheon, and I actually sat directly next to him, and I can't put my finger on. I couldn't like him. And not sure why, but he's a former Democrat.
Okay.
Maybe that's part of it.
I was to say,
Who's
or
now
he just
Republican.
came off as a self-centered,
Yeah, that is the case as well. But one of the things that he talked about a little bit about the transition was that they were getting a lot of pressure from Major League Baseball. And then when you read into it and you really start to figure out the why behind it, it had everything to do with money and nothing to do with being ashamed of having an Indian as a mascot. And that's the frustrating part, because it was...
So we could get an all-star game.
If you want an all-star game and you want to have the money to be able to redo your stadium, which, by the way, was starting to fall apart because it was built in 1993.
And you can't fill it because you suck.
You suck.
You're such a selfish owner
Yeah.
that you can't even fill that stadium.
Yeah. So All-Star games are big-time money. You don't believe me? Ask the Atlanta Braves, who lost one.
How cool but again, how cool is it that you had an organization stand for something for once? You'll never see Cleveland do that. Yeah. LeBron, please, I'll blow you. Come home. It blows my mind.
It's true. Yeah, so, that was a big part. Now, just one final thing on Dolan on a political standpoint. He is running for the Senate. Our guy, at least my guy, LaRose from Brecksville just announced. I like him.
Oh, cool.
I like him. We'll see how he pans out. One thing Matt Dolan mentioned at this luncheon, because I asked about it, was he is in support and working with Republicans in the Ohio General Assembly to try, that's what they call themselves, right? The General Assembly, to try to get ranked choice voting. No to ranked choice voting.
Can you explain that
Absolutely
for the audience
not.
and myself and my ignorance?
Yeah, so ranked choice voting is where an elector would go to the polls, and there'd be 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 independents, and they would rank them the top 5, rate your top 5 down.
Okay.
Right? And so then the computers gather all this data, and as long as somebody gets 50%, then they're the winner. If they don't, they take the last person out, and then they refeed the machine. And the design of ranked choice voting this is what they admit on their website, is to have more moderate candidates win, as opposed to have the candidates who get the most votes.
Oh my God.
Because
so you know what have you ever seen
Charlie Kirk has a lot on this, so go back through his podcast.
Have you ever seen the movie Cheney?
Yes, yeah.
Incredible movie.
Oh, great movie. What?
Masterfully done.
Yeah.
Steve Carell and the Batman, Chris.
Yeah, you call him Batman. I call him American Psycho.
Yes, literally. Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. He was fantastic.
So, oh my God. I mean, talk about a method actor. But one of my favorite parts of that movie, hence the Rethink Tank, I really liked how they illustrate the creation and what promulgated the need for think tanks. So, what is a think tank? Major political parties spend millions, if not billions, into these think tanks, which in college, man, I thought that was the most badass. I'm like, my buddies tell me about a think tank. I'm like, wait. So they're paying people to just like wrestle ideas, and the way it's portrayed to the public, I'm like, this is just like a mental battle arena, and people are just in there coming up with ideas. I want to be in the idea mill. That sounds like the coolest thing ever.
Rush Limbaugh made fun of him from top to bottom. He's like, oh, the guy's in a think tank, so you know he's a moron.
Exactly, because then you come to what surfaces is what the reality of a think tank is, and it's not this where we're just trying to come philosophically dissect an idea. No, it's a corporate factory of creating manipulative terms for political agendas. So. Go see the movie. I'm not going to do this justice, but they bring in a panel of regular-ass citizens, your Joe Schmoes schmucks, a whole panel of them, and they go, so what would you say if I came up with a new deal that taxed companies more for taking on green initiatives? They're all like, that's ridiculous. We're all pro-green initiatives. We would never do that. And he goes, so what would your opinion be for something called a Green New Deal? And they're like, oh my God, I would support it. I don't even know what's in it. I would support it. So they've concocted a corporate system that creates terms that misdirect people, convince them of the opposite, and now make you less informed than you otherwise would be for a particular topic. So how funny is it you're selling it as one thing, more direct voting, let's get more moderates in here, and really what we're trying to do is slide under the case, because you're all ignorant and not going to know what's actually going on, that we're going to slide in the fact that we're the ones picking who's winning.
But I mean, imagine that kind of world with just moderates running it. I mean, we'd be at war with every country. And the only people that would be wealthy would be the politicians, because we'd be at war.
But let's admit what you're really, because this is the gymnastics of language. What you really don't mean is not a person who's ideologically moderate. What you are kind of poking at are the political shills that paint themselves as a middle ground, that are do-nothings and actually
leftists.
Exactly. And deep down are leftists.
Yeah, because that is what Matt Dolan was saying in Code.
Wow.
And what that movement says in Code, because everyone goes, well, wouldn't it be nice to have moderates instead of having these radical leftists and these radical rights? And to me, no, I'd prefer to have
radicals fight it out.
I mean, when radicals fight it out, we always get a clear winner, I think, usually. But we also,
which is why we don't want to let people fight it out and let's censor.
No, because we want to keep it
because we want to keep putting
going.
Puberty inhibitors in children.
Yeah. Good God.
Isn't that I mean,
I'm literally just waiting for the bullets to start flying.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And the scary part is, you know what I keep thinking back to? The Civil War happened.
Mm-hmm.
The ignorance of an American history classroom in high school is that the American Civil War started in the year X. Mm-hmm. And so you just think there was a day where it's like, I declare war against you racist assholes. And they're like, we need to keep the black people in the farm. And they fought. On day one, they just chose. But what we don't realize in the context of reality and life is that there had to be at least a decade of tensions building. And what I also don't like is how the narrative has changed. We all were taught the Civil War was fought over states' rights. Today, it's simply a fight over slavery. And so I got to imagine there was a guy that picked up a musket and fought for... I'm blanking out. Not the Union, the
Confederacy.
The Confederacy.
Yeah.
So somebody picked up a musket, fought for the Confederacy, and simply was in support of freeing the slaves. They just didn't think that the federal government can insert themselves in state rights. So that narrative, what I don't like is how the narrative changed, but also what built a country to divide itself literally in half and war against itself. It isn't this. There were nuances to the conversation. Right now, we're living that nuance as tension builds and people recess further into their echo chambers, and we're ready to fight. It's inevitable we end there, and I don't like to be that alarmist, but I have to imagine life today is not that much far in terms of tension as it was 5 years before the Civil War.
Well,
when it happened.
There's absolutely no question about it. Now, the Republican Party was founded specifically on one very specific purpose, and that was to abolish slavery.
True.
There's no question about that. Abraham Lincoln was not necessarily the president that was there to abolish slavery.
I was going to say that.
Right? Grant really probably would have been, because he was more of an abolitionist than...
Right.
Grant used to call himself a radical Republican because he wanted to give blacks rights and all kind. He was talking crazy talk, rights and land and all kinds of things. So that was Ulysses S. Grant, who came after Andrew Johnson.
Right.
Yeah. So, but the topic for another day. The American Civil War started the day that the Declaration of Independence was written, and it sealed itself when the U.S. Constitution was finally ratified.
Okay.
And so from that moment on, because Thomas Jefferson came back with unalienable rights,
Right.
Life, liberty, and property. Okay, and so the abolitionists in the group said, "Well, we can't use property because everyone's going to think you're talking about slavery."
People, right?
Yeah, and so they changed it to, you know, the thing.
Once again, fight for the proposition that we hold these truths to be self-evident. Sounds corny. Not a joke. Think about it. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. You know how we talk about it. Are we the people, folks, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights? We've never lived up to that. We've never lived up to that. Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the words, never lived up to it.
So they did that, right? So that was a big part of it, and there were other parts. If you read some of the parts that were removed by Franklin and by John Adams, who were devoted abolitionists, they had to pull Jefferson back, saying, "Listen, we can't fight the slave battle now because we need to unite. So we have to keep slavery." These were abolitionists,
Right?
Telling Jefferson, who owned slaves, we can't eliminate the slaves now. We got to wait a little bit.
Right.
Because Jefferson, the only
One
reason,
thing at a time.
and there are reasons to believe that the only reason Jefferson didn't free his slaves is because it was illegal in Virginia to free your slaves. You
Look
weren't
at
allowed
George
to.
Washington. I did, back to what I was referencing, I did a 4th of July video because, Duncan Trussell, a famous comedian, is out here trashing George Washington and comparing him to Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh, that
and
is
it's
just
the most
insane.
ridiculous thing I've
That's
ever heard.
insane. Washington's the greatest president that we have, and he is probably one of the greatest men to have ever walked this earth. Jesus Christ is up there and probably number one, depending on your depending on your faith. I'm going to give.
I'm gonna let the Jews have some fun here.
Moses was a pretty big deal too.
True.
Okay.
True. I'll give you that.
I choose Jesus Christ, and then Washington.
So that video, surprisingly, was one of my more viral videos. One of these commenters gave this narrative, and I went into research to come to find out it's accurate. George Washington, while he's being painted as this evil slave hater, and he's got a mouthful of slave teeth and everything else, which can't be true, can't be corroborated or not, there is so much evidence to show that he was the first major American politician to support the narrative of slaves, black Americans' rights. And upon his death, the end of his row, because again, it was illegal to do so, he freed all of his slaves because you can't put me in jail when I'm dead. So that was
like the only time when you could free your slaves in Virginia was upon your death. Jefferson didn't, because I believe that he died insolvent, so he needed to take care of those things. And I don't have all the details, and I'm certainly not defending
exactly. That's the crux of the point.
I'm not defending slavery at all. But there were probably reasons, and we do need to put ourselves into the shoes of people that were alive in 1850 when he died.
Right.
Yeah, 1825. He died.
Well, no, because I was going to say 1840 is that period when the slaves
so
get abolished in like 47, or something?
He died on July 4th, 50 years from the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, him and John Adams died on the exact same day, exactly 50 years from the signing.
That ain't fishy to you?
You
don't think they were killed? That, to me,
no,
tells
they
me
were old. They were old. You got to watch.
I hope so. Here's the sad part: is I have so little respect and trust in what the title of America is that governmental entity that they've ruined my brain.
There's a great
my short circuit is there had to have been nefarious actions
The
there.
great book is called John Adams, by the David McCaffrey, I think it is, the guy who wrote the Johnstown Flood in 1776. It's careful now. As an American patriot, you will sit there in a fetal position and weep as you read some of this book, because it is all about our founding and the challenges that these men and women faced in order to give us the government and the lifestyle that we have today.
Wow. That's crazy. So I think we perfectly already took that bridge from the Cleveland Indians into our next topic. You ready to initiate it?
I am.
So I love that, we have this perfect bridge from the conversation of the Indians to reparations, and that there's a real struggle for the modern Black American. So what is your position on all of this?
Well, I hear the talk of systemic racism coming from the rank and file liberals, right? They say things like it's impossible for black people to succeed because of systemic racism. Okay. And then at the same time, I hear and see good conservative people that are saying, no, there's no systemic racism. It's all in your head. Now, some of them will admit that there is. I say that there is, but I'm telling you right now, it's not coming from the conservative right. It is coming from the leftists.
Oh, what a twist.
That's where it's coming from. So let's just think about a plantation during our slavery
1840.
days, right? You had people owning people. Sometimes they were white people. Almost always they were black people that were owned. You did have black people owning some black people, and some black people owning some white people, and Asian people. Did we have
Really?
Asians at that point? I can't even remember. I'm not even sure if we got the Asians
Well, I don't imagine so.
till 18.
I was about to say, not
Yeah,
until we
probably.
could throw them in a camp in 1940.
Yeah, no. When we were doing the railroad, that's when we brought the Chinese in.
Right.
That's right. Yeah. So, but the
Yeah.
Irish, right? The Irish,
Yes.
right? They were owned by people. So,
Isn't it wild that is so removed from our education?
well, we can't talk about that.
You have shaken the
fit the
bedrock
narrative.
of so many people listening, because
Yeah.
they're like, wait, it wasn't just black people? And again, you concede. Yes, the majority were. But that's kind of like the narrative of the Holocaust. I'm not Jewish. No one in my family is Jewish. But my grandmother, because she was a child in Greece, had to hide from the Nazis because they were killing children in Greece. So not everybody that was oppressed by the Nazis were Jewish.
That's true.
But that's the narrative.
They were murdering Catholics. They were murdering
Gays,
gays. They were
blacks.
murdering gypsies, blacks. Yeah, they were. They certainly were.
But the only victim that we owe reparations to are the Jews, and they're of course the only victim to ever see the Holocaust.
well, but that's all the media talks about, right?
Exactly.
Because Catholics are hated more than Jews are.
Yes,
The left hates Catholics more than they hate Jews.
I'm gonna be a
and
real
the Jews
bad
still
person.
vote for the left.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I know this is damnable, but I'm gonna say it because I was literally thinking about it on my way to work today. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is being painted as an anti-Semite because he is acknowledging the biology that these bioweapons they're creating in labs are catered to the genetic differences among us, and that the Asians and the Jewish people were the most susceptible to being carriers and spreaders of the COVID virus because of their genetic makeup. Now, whether that was conscious or not, the narrative was, all he's pointing out is that there are labs trying to create bioweapons now, and they can be perfectly catered to the genetic makeup of the enemy. And so he's being made out to be a bad person for saying what? These two groups were more susceptible, whether that's true or not. How does that make him an anti-Semite? And I'm now sitting here going...
It almost makes him a pro-Semite, doesn't it?
That he's
Like,
sitting here speaking out
hey,
on their behalf.
Beware, Jewish people.
Right.
They're out to get you.
But then we live in a world where, like you said, we can persecute any person that praises the God on a cross, but we will not acknowledge a group of people whose book truly believes they are ordained by God as the superior race. Yeah, no, I don't support that.
No.
You know what? I'm coming out and saying I don't support you being so racist and anti-not Semite that you think you're genetically by God better than everybody. Who are you? But we can't say that, and now they're going to put a tornado in my neighborhood because I control the weather.
Oh, you're getting pulled off YouTube for sure.
It's over.
Oh,
But
so
let's get to the...
Does that mean we got to go to Rumble?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they put an ad every 6 seconds on Rumble.
That's
I
their
love
biggest...
Rumble.
You want to love Rumble. You want to make it work.
But it's like every 6 seconds you get a 30-second ad. Seriously, they got to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Anyway, all right. So think about the plantation. Today's inner cities are the plantations of the 1840s. So let's just start with education. It was illegal to teach a slave to read and write. Okay? Our inner city schools do not teach those children to read and write.
And mathematics is racist.
Mathematics is not racist.
Right.
But they can't do basic math either.
Right.
And
because it's racist.
Right. And I'll be bringing that up a little bit later. Right. So if you look at that plantation, it's what the Democrats have done is they've made the rank and file African American, Black Americans, and they've made them poor. They've made them dependent on the government. They've made them uneducated.
Okay.
They've encouraged welfare over work. And so now it's just, we're in a bad place. They're in a bad place. Okay. So what's the next part about it? Absentee father.
Yeah, of course.
In 1960, 75% of black children had fathers living in the home.
Okay.
75%. Today, it's 25%. So today, it's the modern welfare state.
Yes.
They don't teach, the kids can't read. The kids can't write. The kids can't do math. They get, the welfare state requires that there's no husband at home so that they can get the money.
Exactly.
Right? And then when a government purposely puts people in these types of dire straits, it's extremely difficult to get out of. Now, we know that they can get out of it. We know that they can because Barack Obama was elected president twice, and Republicans voted for him.
Right.
We know that, what do we have on our side? We have Tim Scott, senator on our side. Right? Dirt poor. He grew up dirt poor, right? The great economist, Walter E. Williams. I'm going to talk a little bit about Walter E. Williams in this section. Grew up dirt poor. Shouldn't have been anything that what he became, but he did. Ben Carson, dirt poor in Detroit.
Wow.
Probably the most brilliant surgeon that we have.
Right. But the media masterfully
hate
made
him.
him out to be an idiot.
They hate him. I don't know if Clarence Thomas grew up dirt poor. I bet he might have.
That was racist.
Actually, that could have been racist.
No, but still.
But he's too successful to have not been poor.
Exactly.
Because I grew up poor. Coming out of poor, I think in many cases is what makes you successful. I'm not saying rich people can't be successful either. Hey, Donald Trump, 5th greatest president in the history of the United States, people.
Who are the 4 ahead of him?
Washington, Lincoln. I'm rethinking number 3, who right now is
We're always
Jefferson.
rethinking.
Right
Yep.
now is Jefferson.
Okay.
Coolidge.
Why?
Calvin Coolidge, Silent Cal. Calvin Coolidge was able to navigate through the worst depression in U.S. history by not turning it into the Great Depression,
Boom.
like FDR did, and then created the Roaring Twenties.
Wow. Impressive. Okay. That's
Yeah.
someone you don't hear much about.
I know.
That's why
Sadly, you do not hear much about.
Probably because he was impactful.
That's right. Number 5, of course, is Donald Trump, and number 6 is Reagan. And the only reason, I pulled Reagan out of the top 5 is because Donald Trump did everything he said he was going to do.
That's true.
He did.
Except that the wall didn't finish.
He didn't get the wall finished, but he did have Mexicans paying for it. Do you
And
know that?
So how about
Do
this?
you know
one?
that he had Mexicans paying for it?
Oh yeah,
Well, here's-
Mexico.
well, here's how he had him doing it. He told, I think it was President Fox at the time down in Mexico. He said, "Listen, we're gonna bomb the places where you guys make your drugs if you don't stop the people from bringing them to us. So you can have your drugs, but you got to stop them from bringing them to us." And so President Fox took Mexican soldiers, turned their backs to Texas with guns, and stopped Mexicans from infiltrating into the United States.
Wow.
And
Now, why don't we know that story very well?
Well, because the media doesn't tell
exactly.
it. So Mexico was paying the salary of those soldiers who were, in a sense, a human wall.
Wow.
A big, beautiful human wall.
of
Beautiful
Mexicans.
Mexican people. Well, have you been to Mexico?
Yes.
They're lovely people.
Okay.
I love going to
I just had
Mexico.
the most radical opinion on the last episode. I've addressed this a few times now, but I'd like to hear your opinion.
Okay.
I would like to try if you
Yes.
don't mind.
Can I plug this one?
Yes.
Okay, so this is called Blade and Bow. It has a key. I don't know what the key. The story about the key.
You got to
is
have
somewhere.
5 keys
Yes.
so you can get into their vault.
Oh,
My
I need to
uncle
get
has
into
all 5.
Well, I have a lot of guns. I can get
You
into
need
their
you
vault.
need all 5 so you can get the special tour if you go to Kentucky.
Okay.
So here's how you get the ticket, which is a total joke. You don't actually show up with the keys. You just have to text them a picture of you having the 5 keys. So me and you could share the same picture.
Oh, that's
in
terrific.
theory. And thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Cheers. And you can now it gives you a special tour.
Okay.
That's so much better than
It's
Buffalo
delicious.
Trees.
No, but I love Buffalo Trace.
I do, but come on, that is better.
It's delicious.
Very
It
good.
was a gift from I hope, my future daughter-in-law.
Awesome.
So,
Cheers to that.
Father's Day gift for that.
So I wanted one radical opinion I hold
Okay.
when it comes to
I
Mexico.
don't have anything radical.
This is pretty radical.
Okay.
This is, I'll admit, and not in a negative way. When it comes to my position on Mexico, I use this story, I apologize, but we just put in a new stone patio. The patio before it was a crew of white people, and it was good. It worked. It was great. But quality isn't to the nth degree. It aged quicker. So now we got to put in a new patio, and my dad finds this Mexican guy to do it. And he first shows up to rip the patio out. And he has this Mexican kid with him who barely speaks English, and he isn't a citizen and plans on going back. And his whole narrative was, he kept saying to my mom, he's like, I don't get how there are Americans in this country living paycheck to paycheck because, one, none of the other stuff is necessary, and you should want to, he's like, I never want to be desperate in my life. So I want to make enough money to where I can be comfortable, and I'll probably go back home and feed my family and retire at a reasonable age and enjoy life. But if we just live in this short term, we're going to be trapped in it forever. Pretty profound for a 25-year-old Mexican kid who isn't even American.
Big time. And not well, he wasn't educated in our schools.
Yeah, boom.
That
So
helps.
he's a little more educated than our dumbasses. So then you have the gentleman who brought him in for that part of the project. He's putting in the stone. The work ethic and quality was so beyond anything ever. My dad's narrative, quote from him, is he's never, ever tipped a contractor. We've made a deal. This is the cost. That is what it is. But this guy was so above and beyond. He went out of his way to give him a really nice tip. And the guy looked at my dad and he goes, you know what I do with my tips? And my dad goes, what? He goes, I give it right to my wife. Most men drink it away or save it for themselves and don't tell them. But my tips are for my wife. I'm an honorable man, and I do this for my wife and for my family. That is such an anomaly here. That is non-existent.
Oh, that's incredible.
So my radical position is the Mexicans are better than all of you.
Oh, they're killing us.
I want them so much more than you. So my position when it comes to Mexico is I would like to go to Mexico as an American government, kick out a drug-ridden, crime-ridden cartel, get rid of their government, and adopt them as an extension of America. I want you to sign into our social contract, pay into our taxes, and reap all the benefits of our society and its welfare. I want to take care of you because you want to participate. Get rid of the schlubs that are leeching us and sucking us dry. I want you, and I want you to be in a country that isn't infected by crime and cartels and murder and drugs. Be one of us.
Oh, we would have to go eliminate the cartels.
I need that.
Yeah, we would have to do
So
that.
my position is screw the wall, screw trying to assimilate.
just take over the country.
Just take it over and be us.
Yeah.
I don't hate Mexicans.
Oh,
I hate the fact that you are doing amazing and not paying into our system.
Yeah.
Just let me take a little bit of the taxes because I'm losing half a paycheck, so are you. So just be a functioning member, and I will be happy to allow you to reap all of its benefits.
Think of how much safer it would be.
Right.
To go to Mexico. I mean, right now going to Mexico is dangerous. It's scary to go to Mexico City, which is still the largest city in North America. It's still scary to go there. And then when you go to the Americanized resorts in whether it's on the West Coast or on the East Coast, as soon as you get there, they tell you stay on the resort.
Right.
Or if you go, ask the bus driver if it's safe to get off here. All right, so
All right.
I guess I'm okay with taking over Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean,
Come on, I want
the
them.
way you put it, I don't want like a whole massive war for it because we don't need any more war.
I'll fight the cartel. At this point,
Well,
we've
yeah, I
spent
would
so
certainly
much
do
money
that, yeah.
feeding them. It's time to cut the pipeline.
Yeah, no, we're going to be fighting them anyway. If the United States collapses into a civil war, we know that our border will be completely open, and Americans are going to be fighting the cartel right at the border anyway. Texas is ready to,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. They're waiting.
I mean, they got their 9-year-olds are already sitting there every night with their AK-47s and their AR-15s. You know, the American kids, and they're there ready to go.
Can I tell you the coolest thing Texas does?
Yeah.
So, one.
Well, besides having the Rangers.
Yeah, well, yeah, that.
The Texas
and
Rangers.
Did you know, stat about Texas, there are more tigers in captivity in the state of Texas than there are free in the world.
So will they let them loose? Is that the plan?
No, I'm just
Like, if
saying
there's an invasion,
they've
just
got
let the
more
tigers
in a
loose?
collection than there are free in the world.
Wow.
So these are the people we're talking about.
Yeah.
So Steven Crowder, as I don't know if you're familiar with him,
of course,
as an FU to the rules of Islam, he did a skit where he dressed up as Bob Ross and did a painting of Muhammad. You know what's really cool?
You're not allowed to do that.
You're not allowed to draw Muhammad.
do that.
So Texas, why I bring up that funny bit, Texas has an annual Draw Muhammad festival where it's everybody bringing their biggest guns And it's kind of like a, I dare you.
Oh, my God.
I dare you. We are all ready and armed. It's the biggest gun collection, and everybody just starts painting Muhammad.
All those guys with the guns are there to protect the artists.
Well, essentially, the artist has an AK on his back,
okay.
and he's painting. He's like, come get it. Wow. It's everybody showing off their guns while drawing something that would cause war, and they're like, bring it. That's pretty. Yeah. So these are the people we're talking about. When it comes to Texas being equipped against the cartel on its border, they're ready.
Wow,
they're ready.
You know, I thought when I was growing up in the 80s, there was an artist that took a crucifix and dropped it into a glass of urine and called it Christ piss, and it was funded by the federal government. And I thought that was crazy.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa. You can't drop that nugget. You gotta give me a little bit more to that.
Yeah, well, that's about all I got right now, because I remember my brother.
What year was this?
87, 88, 89.
Whoa.
Yeah, right around there.
It's kind of like a comedian that held up the president's head severed.
Yes, yeah. Remember when she did that? Yeah, and little Baron was freaking out, thinking, "My God, does someone really want to do that to my daddy?" Yeah. That Melania talked about that in an interview once.
How sad is that?
Yeah, no, these people, they
know no bounds.
No, they have.
Again, they feel so bad when you make fun of a crackhead.
Oh yeah,
but they make fun of
like,
this man's autistic son.
Absolutely, they're like, you can't make fun of Hunter because he's the president's son. Well, hang on a minute. He's, Hunter is what, 35, 40? I don't even know how old he is. He's on
negotiating on his father's behalf.
Yeah, that guy.
So to the point.
Anyway,
we digress.
Inner city plantations. Let's get back to the fun.
Exactly.
So this is where we are. We're in inner city plantations. Okay, so we don't teach these kids to read. They don't have a father figure. They get essentially a free house through Section 8 housing, free phone, and I'm like, I don't know anybody who's anti-welfare in the sense of we got to use it to help people that are down on their luck,
right? That
have had really bad things happen. But this isn't happening because people are down on their luck. This is happening because leftist Democrats are putting people into this system,
right?
And
that makes them desperate and reliant.
Yeah, and reliable votes.
Exactly. So not only do I need you to be stuck here, I'm giving you not enough to break out of your situation, but enough to just live in your terrible situation.
Yes.
And only because you're stuck in your terrible situation will I assure that I always have your vote.
Yes. So how do they do it? First, they did it with the welfare thing, right? But let's a couple other things. What would you think if you could point to a law on the books in every single state in our nation and our federal government? What law do you think could be the most anti-black law that exists? Not that it's purposely anti-black, but that's the result.
Well, because I've seen the light and I am of the good team with virtue, I would have to say it's voter ID.
Oh, no. It is not.
It is not.
It is not.
It is having an ID to prove that you're a citizen so you could speak and participate in our government is not the most racist thing.
No, it's
go figure.
The minimum wage laws
totally
are the most anti-black laws that exist.
Elaborate.
Okay. So there's supported by Democrats specifically, and they started out back in, I think it was 1930, but sometime between 30 and 35, 1930 and 1935, the Davis-Bacon Act. Now, that was actually, Davis and Bacon were senators who were Republicans. But that doesn't mean anything because Mitt Romney's a Republican. I mean, so, right? I mean, come on.
The guy with multiple wives.
Right? I mean, this guy's a Republican. So that doesn't mean anything. But the Democrats were happy to support this as well. So what it did is it supported a minimum wage that was equal to the prevailing union wage when jobs were going to the federal government. So federal government would ask for bids. The unions would the companies would do it, and it was required that the wage had to be at least at the union wage or higher. So let's suppose that union wage at that time could have been, I don't want to, because back in those days it was like $4. So let's just try to put it into terms that we can understand. $25 today, which is still a pretty low wage. But let's just suppose that was what it was. And they needed a carpenter. Okay. So they had to hire somebody and pay them at $25. But what if they found a carpenter that was black that was willing to do it for $20? And he's not in the union.
Simply because of his situation.
He's not in the union.
He's trying to compete in the market.
Trying to compete in the market, right? He wants to do well for his family, and he's willing to work. Similar to the Mexican story that you told us. Because those guys, I'm sure your dad paid them well.
Oh, my goodness. Not only was he getting the regular American market cost of what it is today to do what you did for us, but you went so above and beyond that we need to give you extra because you not only match my expectations of the market, but you overshadow it with your excess.
Yeah. So this black carpenter who either couldn't get into the union because he was black, or he couldn't get into the union because he didn't have the perfect skill set, but could still do the job that needed to be done in that particular case, couldn't get hired. So that minimum wage actually is a zero wage,
right,
for him.
Good point.
Right. So now let's translate it to kids, and let's just do it for kids today. Okay. In the inner cities, you have kids that can't read or can't read well. They can't write. They can't do math.
Right.
If you're in Baltimore, if you're in the city of Baltimore, a city that is run 100% by black Democrats, 100%, and the teachers union is black Democrats. The school districts are run by black Democrats. Most of the kids in them are black. Okay, it was between 17 and 25 schools within Baltimore city schools. Not a single child was considered proficient in mathematics.
Well, because it's racist.
Proficient.
Because it's racist.
Okay, but proficient. Proficient is nowadays
not moderate.
It's not even. It's barely.
Yeah, it's literally just sufficient.
Basic.
Proficient is
addition, subtraction, basic multiplication.
Is a little bit above sufficient.
Maybe they could, if they had a calculator, they could figure out a problem that required them to figure out something a little more complicated than 1 + 1 = 2.
But can I address one thing? Yeah. And this is something Steven Crowder, the evil racist, has proposed.
Oh, he's horrible,
and
isn't he?
When he said it, when he put up his stand at a university that said white privilege is a myth, the one thing I took away from that, his whole slew of evidence, the one thing that always stood out to me was the index of America shows, the statistics show, today's privilege has nothing to do with melanin. It has everything to do with a two-parent household that cares about you. Doesn't matter if they're gay, doesn't matter if they're divorced. You have multiple people in your life that are looking out for the betterment of you. I have to tell you, I was math beyond proficient. My strongest subject was math. That was it.
You really are a nerd, aren't you?
Oh, totally, totally. But I'm also flexing my privilege here. This is my privilege, and it has nothing to do with my neon glowing skin as I sit here. My
you got
privilege.
the neon lights behind you.
That's right. That's right.
How much did that cost you? God, you must be
How
rich.
cool was this?
That is really cool, but I'm
This
thinking
was
how
custom
much did that
with
thing?
the rethink tank on the ear. It was.
God.
This was. Can I tell you how this guy made this? I'm gonna have him on. He's an ultra artist, and I cannot wait.
Did he have like a plate? And went,
well, so here's the deal. When it comes to like,
we get off topic
artists,
real quick.
real quick.
This is ADD podcasting.
Yeah, can you tell? Can you tell? What's really cool about this is he needed something to. I just told him I want a monkey in a spacesuit in space holding its chin, and he wanted a. This is the narrative to it.
I am going to talk about this monkey a little bit later.
I hope so. Well, because you're racist, but the suit. He wanted a suit that made it. He wanted a Russian. What's the word?
Cosmonaut.
Cosmonaut. He wanted a cosmonaut suit because it would make it look like he made a narrative. He wanted this suit that made it look like the monkey made the suit, that the monkey was an intellectual being that took itself there. But he could, so he wanted a specific suit. He wanted an image that he could kind of reflect. Well, he needed to create this image. So he goes to an AI image creator. And he's speaking to it like a human would. I want a muggy in a cosmonaut suit, blah, 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 blah. And it just was coming up with the most effed up images. It was just totally jacked up. Right. So he needed to speak computer to a computer. So he goes to ChatGPT and tries to craft what he needs to put in it spends a day talking to ChatGPT to figure out what he needs to put in the dialogue for the AI to make this image. And what the AI told him was that you need to speak in photography terms. So he had to put in the dialogue to the AI image creator the light contrast,
Oh my God.
the image, like all these different photography things you would never think of.
That's incredible.
To create this, and you'll have to go to the episode, it'll come out in 2 more, but it's literally the exact, this AI made this image, and he's like, this was the greatest gift you could have ever given me because I have a whole new tool. I now know how to talk to an AI to make an image that's never been seen before to then recreate it on a canvas. Back to neon skin tones. My privilege, though, is I had a father that not only gave a shit about me, but wanted to make me as much of a superhuman as he could. Mm-hmm. He's just a layman. His dad died when he was 18. The man's trying as best as he can. What I think the greatest gift to ever be given to me, in 5th grade, we'd be doing algebra. This is the first time, we're just doing math. Mm-hmm. And my dad goes, what would you do if I threw an X next to this 4? And I just remember getting so mad at this guy. Like, dude, what the hell are you doing? Like, that is not the task of the evening. I just need to do my homework. And he's like, well, what if I threw an X in this? And I'm like, dude, stop. This is an engineer, Dad. But I'm like, no. And it was hell for a child. Like, dude, what are we doing? And yet I was tears above the people I'm supposed to be in a room with.
TIERS.
Yes. Not crying. But
because words matter.
Exactly. But being levels above these people simply because not only was my dad present, but he was always pushing for more.
He was messing with you is what he was doing.
Oh yeah. He wanted to watch me squirm as early as he could. But now I'm laughing at a time where it equipped me lengths before others. And that's the privilege. Yeah. That's the privilege that my dad was pushing me before my school was because he was there doing the homework with me. Right. Look what the pandemic did. It forced parents to see, whoa.
What
You're explaining what to my kids?
Right.
I remember I'm like, Dad, I'm going to 8th grade. I'm going to fail this science test. I don't get, this lady is nuts. Turned out to be an ultra drunk. She was the most pathetic. Just as much as I praise the greatest teacher I have, this woman would go down as the worst teacher I've ever had. And it took my dad, again, how lucky I was. I'm sitting there looking at my dad going, I'm not stupid. This teacher is a damnation to us. And so he needed to prove to me that wasn't the case. And we went through the whole 2 chapters in the textbook. My dad, who is a chemical engineer, went through my whole science textbook with me, these 2 chapters, thoroughly. I will never forget being in my living room, reading this with him, for me to hand him the test, and not a goddamn question on that test came from those 2 chapters. And I go, do you see what I'm working with? This woman's a drunk. She shows up half in the bag, and we're her problem for the day. And I got to have the value of my household seeing the struggle I was going through because of how present he was.
Yeah.
That's the privilege.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with
No,
this.
it doesn't have anything to do with skin. It doesn't at all. You're right. My parents were divorced, but I still had a father that was still around.
Boom.
And he came to games, and we could call him when we needed things, and he was there. Right?
That's everything.
And that was really important. Just because he didn't live in the house.
Imagine
obviously it
taking
would have
that
been
away because he smoked a joint.
Oh, sure. Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that was the game, folks.
Yeah.
The narrative
Yeah.
in the newspaper was marijuana needs to be illegal because it makes black men crave white women.
But now, and it wasn't until 1967 when it became legal for interracial marriages.
Wow.
So we're in a modern welfare state. Is where Democrats have put black people into. Every year I go to what's called the Cleveland Right to Life event. It's held in Independence. It's massive every single year. 2 years ago they had Matt Walsh scheduled to speak. He couldn't. He got snowed in.
Independence?
In Independence, yeah. Yeah, he got snowed in. But
dropped everything.
Do you remember? Oh, it was fantastic. Do you remember Milo Yiannopoulos?
Of course.
Well, he spoke. So I got
in
to
Independence?
Yeah, I got to meet him and everything. It was great. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the Cleveland Right to they bring in all the big time conservative
What is this called?
speakers.
This is for me.
It's called the Cleveland Right to Life event. It's held in end of January, beginning of February every single year. It is fantastic.
I'm highlighting that.
They bring all kinds of great people in.
You just named 2 people I would drop everything to go see.
Oh yeah. Are you familiar with who Kristen Hawkins is? She's a big time right to lifer.
Okay. What is the right to life for the audience?
That's anti-abortion.
Okay.
Not pro-life, anti-abortion.
Yep.
There's a big difference.
There's a big
between
difference.
those two. And I'm on the anti-abortion side.
6/24/22.
That's right. But obviously, I do believe we have to come to a consensus
Right.
on this. I understand.
Well, because
I understand.
I want to acknowledge, because you said we couldn't talk about it, but I do want to say
This is a whole show.
I have on balance, and I would love to do it sometime. I have on balance, the perfect narrative to this was a Louis C.K. joke. And he goes,
he's
when it
wonderful.
comes, he's the greatest political philosopher to ever make a joke.
Yeah.
That man is brilliant.
It's terrific. Well, I mean, I had what's his name? The old guy. Oh my God.
I could Google it.
Why can't I
What was he
remember him? Well, he was a famous comedian. Oh, George Carlin.
George Carlin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's have another
Just
bourbon,
a comedian.
friends.
If it's just a comedian, it's the George Carlin.
It is. Yeah. Seriously, right? I mean, he was
the greatest political philosopher to ever make a joke.
And I didn't agree with everything he thought.
Hell no.
But I was like,
but damn, did he present it well?
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's logically consistent.
without question.
Brilliant
I'm
man.
I'm like, this guy's got something like I'd like to have more of that conversation because maybe he could convince me.
I think so.
Because most of the time the liberals are so stupid, the leftists are so stupid, they can't convince anybody. Because all they want to do is hit you over the head with a hammer.
How do I convince you? by actually defeating your idea in a free marketplace of ideas.
They can't do it.
They can't do
They
that.
cannot do it.
So let's go back to the Louis C.K. point when it comes to abortion.
Yeah.
It really articulates what's going on. He goes, half of the people think you're just taking a shit.
Yeah.
You're just taking a poop.
Yep.
The other half think you're killing a baby.
Yeah.
Some people just think you're taking a shit. But they think you're killing a baby. If there was a factory killing babies, how could you ever get mad at a person for grabbing a sign and wanting to stop the factory killing babies system?
Right.
There's something there, which I think that balance makes us recognize there is no answer that is a totality. Your answer's totally right. It needs to be a middle ground, but if we can't have a logical dialogue, there is no middle ground.
Yes.
But that's the only way we solve this conversation.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, for people on my side, it certainly won't be in the middle. We won't be happy with the middle. We'll be happy with. I think we'll be happy
We'll
with.
tolerate.
I think we'll be well.
We will tolerate.
Yeah, because we
we want to
violent.
live
We're
in a
not-
society.
Yeah, we're not violent people.
Right.
Right.
Because I need to live with you.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm not making rules for you. I'm making rules for my life and me and whoever I am sexually involved with.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
our decision.
That's right.
And I'm not going to intervene, but I also have morals.
Yes.
And so I need to live in a society with you. And so let's be real. In the conversation of abortion, you are never going to stop abortion.
No, you cannot.
The only thing you're going to stop is safe abortions. In lieu of that, I don't want a 16-year-old to ever see a coat hanger again.
Right.
In which case, I owe it to her to take this conversation serious and compromise. Because it does not end in a safe place when we live in totalities of either. So, moving on back to the systemic slavery.
We're doing a show on this.
I would love that.
It's going to be great.
You better wear the same shirt.
We're going to have to put up a big wall here because our spit will fly. Anyway, okay, yeah. So here we are in the modern welfare state. Okay, we have minimum wages where the kids they get hired, they can't do basic math skills, they can't make change.
They were at a time getting into schools that they really shouldn't even be in, and then
Yeah.
they're failing them because they're not even calibrated to be there, but they check a box.
You know, I'll speak to this just because you're an attorney and I think you'll understand it. Walter Williams, the economist that I refer to often, he wrote an article once, an op-ed about the evil of affirmative action. He's black, by the way. Walter E. Williams is as black as you can
have
get.
to say that because otherwise there would be no credence to his point.
Yeah, no,
But
he's completely as black. He's a very dark-skinned black man, very brilliant, and he's a former radical leftist who saw the light of day, and he saw it when he did this study on the minimum wage in Philadelphia and how it impacted. How it impacted kids in Philadelphia because shop owners who were black shop owners in Philadelphia, now according to Joe Biden, they're Indian. And you must have an Indian accent to go in.
Thank you. Come again.
Thank you. That'd be $100. Did you just have the Coke?
You know what speaks
You
to
had a Coke and a Snickers? $124.
Right, just to
I'm
digress
just doing
for
Joe
a second.
Biden here. That's all I'm doing.
Just Joe Biden. Just to speak to again, I'll never relate to a Gen Z kid that's had to live in this echo chamber of hate and cancellation.
I'm raising them.
Well, I lived in a world where my favorite show was Mind of Mencia. And Carlos Mencia made fun of Mexicans, blacks, white people, everything he could make fun of. So everybody felt included, but everybody also got to laugh. It was the most beautiful period in time because Jimmy Kimmel, who gets to be a self-righteous position of morality, he also came from the frickin' Man Show, which was from the same period of time.
I used to watch that stinking show because I love the girls on trampolines. Hello. It is girls in skirts
With giant pitchers of beer.
on trampolines. That's why I watch that show. And now this guy tries to tell me about morality.
Right.
His showmate, Adam Carolla, is real about it at least. And he's like, yeah.
Adam Carolla's the man.
We were shitheads.
Right. Well, not even that. He's like, we were human beings.
Yeah, we were doing what people wanted to see, what the men who watched the Man Show. But secretly, I think, because my wife would kind of like shake her head while I watched it. Because I watched it. Ziggy Zaga, Ziggy Zaggy, Ziggy Zaga, oi, right? I watched that whole thing. I want to shoot my TV when I'm flipping through and I see Kimmel on TV.
Oh
Like who
gosh.
watches this guy?
How are you
He's
the same
unwatchable.
guy? Like,
he's not funny.
No.
There's nothing. He's not intuitive. There's nothing new that he can say. He just repeats the same old stuff that we hear from every other. I think he watches The View, and that's where he gets his. That's where he gets his topics.
Right.
This guy's terrible.
Well, so
At least Ellen had good musical artists.
exactly. So I'm of the impression that I was damned because
Ellen turned out to be a big fat meanie, though, didn't
wow,
she?
big fat meanie. What a way to put
what
it.
a meanie she was.
I mean, mean is one way to put it. Once we find out what she's doing to children,
Yeah, and her people.
that's going to be a really nice way to put it.
People hated her.
Wow. But what
Her
I want to
wife
acknowledge
was hot though.
was,
Portia
still is. Portia's
yeah,
still
she's a
very
hot.
attractive. And boy, does she not play it like a
Telling
lesbian.
you, she could be converted. I think she could.
So, in regards to the period I came from, you were allowed to laugh at the things that made us different, that made us, like, there was an acknowledgement that we were different, and acknowledging it allowed us to have fun and laugh at what made us different. Whereas today, that's a damnable offense. I'd be lying if I didn't admit I kind of lost where I was going with that thought. Regardless, what I want to acknowledge since we're here is that you have people that came from a time period that could laugh at our differences. And now, if you acknowledge that we're different, you're damnable.
Yeah.
But then also, claiming that you're different is a victim card you can play to give you social credit.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to judge a generation on where they stood is the comedians of their time.
Cool.
Okay? Because the comedians, I think they tell the truth. They tell the truth
Yes.
as they see it, but they still tell the truth. Up until now, they may not tell the truth as they see it. A few do. Louis C.K. still does.
Can I tell you something awesome?
Yeah.
So there is a comedian, Michelle Wolf, who she's
Is she hot?
praised.
Like she a hot chick? No.
She's I guess, give me a couple more Buffalo Traces, yeah.
Okay.
Like, she's not hot. She's passable.
Okay. Fair enough.
She's renowned for roasting Trump on numerous occasions,
Yeah.
but also at
Well,
the
that's all they do
at the
now.
dinner or whatever, that presidential dinner. She roasted Trump and she put him in his place and whatever. She's this ultra liberal comedian.
No one can put Trump in his. Trump puts
Trump will
himself.
exactly.
He puts
That's
himself
how he
in
beats
his
him.
place. That's what he does.
He laughs at I'm the
Yeah.
orange man. Like, he makes
Yeah.
jokes of that. You make fun of him and then he doubles down on the joke
Oh,
and leans
absolutely.
into it. That's how
Yeah,
he wins.
That's because he doesn't care.
Well,
he
because
was
also
the freaking
already
president.
Exactly. He already won.
Yeah.
So Michelle Wolf comes out. I'm at a Dave Chappelle comedy show at the Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton. And Michelle Wolf comes out, and she's a low-key, she's a big comedian name to be in one of his openers.
Sure.
She comes out real quickly, goes, I'm one of you guys. I just moved to Ohio. I'm an Ohioan. again, lady, know your crowd. You're not an Ohioan. We know you're not an Ohioan. She immediately, her first joke, goes into abortion. She's a lefty, so she ain't what our narrative has been. Kill babies were the whole joke. The whole joke was just rack them all dead. And let's just say a stadium full of Ohioans, even though you said you're one of us, did not take to it too kindly. I've never seen this in my life. Hilarities downtown. Nick, the owner, he gets picked up all the time. All the comedians talk about him. The guy's raved. This is one of the biggest comedy clubs in the country for a reason.
Yeah.
Hilarities is top notch. I've gone to comedy is my thing. My dad's is sports. I love comedy. That's my obsession. And I've never seen anything like this. An entire stadium of people turned on her immediately, hated her. Think of a football stadium. The entire right corner of the stadium just started chanting, "Get the F off the stage."
Wow.
And they didn't say F. And it was...
That's a big place down there.
"Get the fuck off the stage." And it was in unison. She could not get the crowd back.
No,
then the whole stadium was just booing, "Get off." She got, and it wasn't just the abortion joke. Mm-hmm. It was, here is somebody who is clearly not one of us, thinking we're so stupid, farm pathetic losers that we are just gonna. You said we're gonna kiss your toe. You're one of us. You're from Ohio.
That's what they think.
That's what they think.
That's what they think we are.
And I've never seen somebody tuck their tail and cry, and it was well-deserved, for Donnell Rawlings, who's Dave Chappelle's best friend, to come on and just take this. I mean, it was amazing how he brought us all back and redirected the whole crowd. But it's like,
did he comment on his need to redirect the crowd?
Not at all, because he realized it was totally effed. The whole situation, I'm telling you, the whole crowd was ready to walk.
Ready to just go.
So this dude needed to, there was not a social issue in his commentary. I need to make people laugh.
How long did she last?
She based on comedy sets, she probably should have been up there for 20 to 30 minutes. She was booed off by 15. So
she did finally. She
because
just
they had an opener. She wasn't the opener.
So she finally. So you think she probably relented?
Oh no,
and
she
just
couldn't.
left?
She couldn't talk.
There
was a point in time where that crowd, that corner, had the whole. It was. Here is a whole section.
The cheap seats
in unison.
The cheap seats, which is America's
seats. The rest
seats.
of us were like, wait, we're not alone.
Yeah.
It's kind of the mob mentality. It's like, oh, wait, we all, first we see weakness. We smell sharks. We smell blood in the water. But then also, wait, I'm not alone. Because I felt alone. Am I the only one that's pissed off and uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Until I realized, wait, this whole football stadium of humans is pissed off and annoyed.
Yeah.
And she couldn't finish her set. It was
terrific.
beautiful.
That's terrific.
It was amazing.
That's absolutely terrific.
But again, that's why I do think the philosophy.
Ohio's gonna get through our problems.
Always.
I really think we will.
We're the swing state people lean on for a reason.
Yeah, that's why we have so many outside special interests trying to funnel leftist money into here, and why the Washington lobbyists are doing it. And
so you made a point about George Carlin. We're talking
George
about
Carlin.
comedians.
Yeah. So
my position is this: only one thing, and it's that Socrates said, the most damned person in a society is the one who speaks the truth. So what is a comedian? It's the spoonful of sugar that makes the medicine go down. I am making an uncomfortable truth a little bit more comfortable, but you gotta swallow it.
You gotta swallow.
We gotta acknowledge this.
Of course. And that's the comedians that I grew up with, the tail end of Richard Pryor. That was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right?
Take that famous clip of him on SNL.
This guy, he did make fun of everybody.
including himself.
Including his race, especially the white race, right? Because it's funny.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's what made it so that we were able to really bond together.
But that was the beautiful part of my generation, the Mina Mencia. You
Right.
had a guy that he was Mexican, made fun of Mexicans, but made fun of me.
Yeah.
Made fun of the people. All of us got
Yes.
to laugh and
Yes.
rally behind something.
Eddie Murphy did it too.
Exactly.
Eddie Murphy did it.
So here are all the people that profited off of that time. We all kind of got, I think the 90s and early 2000s, the onslaught of the internet was the freest we ever were because there were no people that were slaves. There were no people that were not allowed to go to the drinking fountain or go to this school. We all were in the same place, given the same opportunities. I'll concede for the sake of conversation that maybe some of those people had a better starting point than others.
Sure.
But at the same time, we all were finally at a base level that allowed us to laugh with each other, build camaraderie, and as a result, the machine that's invested in dividing us had to retrain racism back into us.
It did. It had to. And so they did that through politics. That's how they did it, through politics. So as we look at where the black race is now, still the very vast majority are thrown in the cities, are thrown into their own spaces. They don't read, they don't write, they're not teaching them. They put them in positions where they can't make money. It's horrible. It's horrible. And then they start teaching them that the reason they're like that is because of white people. Right? And that there's this constant racism. In 1960, 60% of Americans said they would never vote for a black president. In 1960.
Wow.
1960.
That's relatively recent.
Yeah. Nearly 50 years later, not quite, Barack Obama was elected president. And then 4 years later, he was elected again.
Boom.
So you can't tell me
things change quick.
Yeah, you can't tell me that we're dealing with serious
systemic
racism. Well, systemic in the sense of what the Democrats are trying to do, and
or
I think
how about not using their terms, real social racism?
Yeah,
that doesn't exist.
They're trying to get votes.
Yeah,
and that's how they get votes. Blacks are 13% of the population. They commit 50% of the homicides. 90% of the victims of those homicides are black. So black on black crime. Okay, that is not an attack on black people. To me, that I'm attacking Democrats.
Exactly, because it's your cities that this is happening in.
Yeah. It's. I told a story once. We might have talked about this one over bourbon one time. Cleveland has somersaulted with Chicago as having the most per capita murders in the country.
Right.
And every once in a while, Baltimore pops up, and every once in a while, St. Louis might pop up. But generally, Cleveland and Chicago are right there on the top of the list, and we're not on the list where we want to be.
Right.
That's for sure. We want to be in the top, like a Super Bowl list. That's where we'd like to be. Right. I don't.
This will never find herself on.
I don't care. I don't care if it's a World Series list because I won't be watching that. See, and if you don't believe me, my family is certain that I won't be watching it. So we have these constant murders. Rich white guy is a professor at Case Western Reserve, driving one day, Euclid Avenue, going from west to east, heading to class. He was going to go teach. He was going to teach our kids, right? Our future lawyers and business people, whatever they were doing. I don't know what he was a professor of. He was shot randomly and killed. Okay? The day before, a little girl was shot while she was sleeping in her bed. I can't remember if she died or not. Who do you think got the press conference? The little girl or the rich white leftist?
I'm going to go with the white leftist outside of Case Western.
Yeah. Mayor Frank Jackson, within 45 minutes, I think it was, talking about we got to get the guns from all these bad people. Now, he's not talking about the inner city people.
Right. Yeah, not the people that shot her.
Yeah, the people that shot the girl or the professor.
Yeah.
No, they want to take it from
you, the guy
take it
in
from
suburbia,
me, from my suburb who carries a 9mm.
Just in case you step in my property.
Yeah. Right? That's who they want to take the gun from. So this is pushing it. This might get you really knocked off YouTube.
I'm up for the challenge.
I am 1,000% certain that every time there's an inner city murder, that the Democrat Party is happy because they can come up with yet another way to get another vote.
Yes, totally.
They absolutely can. But
You're right.
Because they only care when a white person shoots somebody.
Yes.
They don't care when where is Black Lives Matter on 90% of the victims
Black lives
are black.
Right.
So a story.
Well, how about wait? Do you remember in the Summer of Love when they would protest because of the BLM? Do you remember when there was a drive-by and like a girl got killed at a BLM? A black girl.
What city was this? I remember something about it.
I want to say.
Was it like Portland and Seattle? Was it up there?
Minneapolis? It was one of those two.
Those were.
It was either the Chaz Zone in Seattle.
Yeah.
That's the real insurrection of our country.
Yeah.
Or Portland or Minneapolis. One of the three assholes of our country.
Yes.
They had a young black girl protesting at a BLM riot, gets shot, and then all the black people at that riot are going, "Where's BLM for this girl?" And they go, no, that doesn't fit the narrative that we're trying to sell.
Yeah.
So she's a forgotten soul.
They also invent the narrative.
Well, always.
Right? Hands up, don't shoot never happened. I remember watching this.
But we will kiss the ground LeBron walks on when he comes back to Cleveland.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I remember LeBron. I remember watching the press conference of, is it Mike Brown?
Yes.
Michael Brown?
Michael Brown.
Michael Brown's cousin saying,
yeah.
I can see my cousin saying, hands up, don't shoot. Never happened.
Right.
Not even in the video at all. It never happened. He was going after the cop, right? Let me tell you this. If Barack Obama and who are some of the other, the big time, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, if those guys would turn to their community, well, Barack Obama is only half black. If he turned to his half of his community and say,
if half of him turned to his community,
that's what I meant. but if they actually said, hey, listen, when you get pulled over by a police officer, get your hands at 10 and 2, say yes, sir, say no, sir. If the cop does something bad, they're filming it.
Right, and they're going to jail.
And they will go to jail.
So can I give you a little bit of my narrative?
Yeah, you think, probably see it.
Well,
right?
This is my biggest headache. I'm told that I have a privilege, that I came out of my mother's womb knowing how to act with cops, or that cops just know to give me the free pass.
I teach my children how to behave around cops.
Because don't forget, the black narrative is that we have to have a conversation with our kids that white people don't. No. We're having different conversations with our kids. That's what it is. My dad looked at me and said, you need to, back to your point, hands on the wheels, respect the officer.
Yes, sir, no, sir.
And let the courts sort it out. Maybe that's the privilege of being able to afford an attorney, but that's always been the case. We'll work it out after. You need to survive the night.
That's right.
Their narrative is you are going to die.
Yeah, you better run.
So you better fight for your life.
Yeah.
And then that results in death.
It does, yeah. If you got to take his gun, take his gun. Well, sorry, that's not how it works. I remember vividly getting pulled over with my 9-year-old son, might have been 10, right around there. And we're coming out of Bedford or Maple Heights onto a bridge going west, I think. Doesn't matter, but I got pulled over because I was going too fast on the bridge. Because for some reason, bridges are 25 miles an hour. They just it's like the dumbest thing in the world. Like, why not 35?
Did you know our human brains actually cannot comfortably go at 25 miles an hour?
Oh, it drives me
nuts.
It's
so slow.
Oh,
No,
it's so
I mean,
slow.
biologically.
And if you're going 35 or 40 and you have to slow down to 25 on a bridge, it's just...
But again, socially, it feels uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
But literally, biology shows it's at such a slow degree that, like, our nature needs to go just a little bit quicker.
A little bit more.
And that's why the 35 is the sweet spot. But they say 25 is actually too slow for how fast-paced our biology is currently, our society, to where it's actually ridiculous for legislation to make speed laws 25. Let's go back to our locality governing. Back to your point.
Yeah.
I should be able to just vote on that. The fact that I can't just change, I want this, we all agree, me, you, and the Bourbonites at Creekside agree that this road should be 35 and not 25.
Yeah.
What hoops and hurdles do we need to do to actually make that change? And then that change actually never happens because of it.
You can't because city municipality laws, like so around government buildings, after bridges, and then certainly around schools. No one says that
the school I'm never going to fight.
I think everybody's pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody freaks out when someone's going 30 in a 20 around a school.
Yes.
Everybody does, especially after you have kids. So anyway, we get off the bridge, and officer pulls me over. So I follow the rules that I always would teach my kids. Hands at 10 and 2. I carry guns when I am out. So if I'm driving, I generally have a gun on me, at least one. So before the cop comes up to my door, I turn the vehicle off. I set the keys on the dash. This is what I do because I have a gun, and I want to make him the most comfortable person in the world around me with a gun. I feel like I have that obligation.
Totally.
Windows completely rolled down.
Not just a crack.
Oh, no, it's rolled down. It's rolled down. I have my driver's license. I have my insurance card. And I have my concealed carry permit at the ready. And I hand it to him. And, he says hello, and I hand it to him. And I say, this was back in the time when you had to say this. Officer, I'm required by law to let you know that I'm a concealed carry permit holder, and I am carrying a firearm today. You don't have to say that anymore.
No, you don't.
You do not.
Welcome to
you don't
Ohio.
even have to hand them your permit anymore.
Nope.
Sometimes I still do.
Right, simply because I'm not looking to die, and I want to show that I respect you.
Well, and then there's a third thing. Money.
Yeah.
I have never, ever gotten a ticket from a police officer when I probably should have for speeding. When I said, officer, I just want to let you know that I'm a concealed carry permit holder. I do have my loaded firearm on me, and I just wanted to let you know for our safety.
Good for you.
And then they chat, and they go, well, what kind of gun do you carry? And then so I had my kid with me.
You privileged prick.
Oh, I'm telling you, so I had my kid with me. So after I said those words, I said, you always have to tell them whether or not you have your firearm with you.
It's almost like there's a value to having a father figure.
Yeah, my son nodded. And so then we would chat, and he went back, and he checked my background because, he's got to make sure there's no outstanding warrants or anything, and all of my warrants are no longer outstanding. So we're good there. And he comes back, and he goes, okay, so next time you got to remember bridges, you really need to be 25 on the bridges, so slow it down. He turned to my kid, he said, just let your dad know I'm letting him off because of how he treated the situation and how he's raising you.
Wow.
Coolest thing in the world.
Wow.
So that was a lesson for me. So every time I get pulled over, I I'm happily handing them my permit. And I let them know whether or not I have it. And I got out of a couple. I got out of one where I had a tag that was expired for like 5 months.
Yeah.
And officer, I just wanted to let you know
So the social narrative would be same scenario, but instead you throw it in park, sprint out of the car, and run for your life. And make this cop chase you down, and you're wrestling with him on the ground.
And then I try to steal his gun.
And then you try to take his gun or his taser,
Yeah.
so you could combat back towards him. Would it result in the same thing? I mean, you're white in both scenarios.
No, actually, the data does show that cops are more likely to shoot unarmed white people than they are to shoot unarmed black people.
That is the statistic.
You're trying to get me there. I got him. See that? The stat is that is the case. And now it could be because the cop doesn't want to have to deal with being called a racist and canceled and all that stuff. You remember the scene in Columbus when the teenager was getting ready to stab the other teenager and the cop shot her?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And like LeBron James gets on and goes, "Well, why do you have to shoot her?" It's like because she
was about to kill another
human being. That's the job of a police officer.
Regardless of what that other human being looked like, she was about to kill someone.
Yeah. A cop can't let that happen. This is a headline today. So this came from The Blaze. Glenn Beck's show. Media's outrage at Luke Combs covering Tracy Chapman's fast car _ obsession with race. Okay, so I don't know who the author was. The author of this article goes in and talks about it's
on the screen, so you'll see it.
These people that are the media that is saying it's so wrong for country music to do her song and stuff like this. This brings me back to the Aunt Jemima story.
Okay.
Aunt Jemima, former slave that was freed, got hired by the something mill company to promote their new instant pancake mix, goes to the Chicago World Fair, and the world falls in love with her. All these mean, evil white people fall in love with Aunt Jemima because they loved her pancakes, but they weren't her pancakes. She was the spokesperson for the pancakes, and she just sold the pancakes, and people loved them, and people loved her. She became a millionaire. So Tracy Chapman's fast car, the media hates Luke Combs doing it because I guess he's a white redneck guy just doing this song and sing. I believe he just sings it. He didn't change any of the lyrics. He's just doing it as he does it. Okay, I was a Tracy my brother. I love all my brothers. My oldest brother came home one day. He went to the music store often, and he came home one day with a cassette of Tracy Chapman. I'm like, who's this Tracy Chapman? He's like, oh, you got to listen to her, because I was just learning how to play guitar.
Okay.
Right, and she's from Cleveland.
Oh, really?
Like big time poor, and like fast cars, a real story.
Big time poor.
Right? Like super poor. Like Democrats, like Democrat Party.
Would salivate over.
We've won poor. That's where Tracy Chapman was. Right? And I believe she's gay too.
Oh, that's a bonus.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's checking all the boxes. But she writes this fantastic. There were several really good songs on this record. But she writes this terrific song called Fast Car. And it's a hit. She played Wembley.
Really?
I mean, it was a massive hit. They're going to YouTube. There are videos
in England? Wembley Stadium?
She's playing freaking Wembley Stadium. Her and her guitar. And the crowd's just listening to it. I don't even think they knew who she was at that point.
I saw David Beckham play there.
It was just, really?
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it's fantastic. Okay,
That's awesome.
Right?
What a stadium! That's a huge stadium.
Yeah, but she her life from 1988 to 1990 was just perfect, and she made a lot of money. Great for her, right? Yeah. That's the American dream. She came up out of
poor
poverty.
Cleveland to playing in Wembley.
She came up out of poverty, and the most people who bought her music were white people. The media is freaking out about this. But they're failing to realize, just like with Aunt Jemima, who made all kinds of money, Tracy Chapman is making all kinds of money. Because her song that she wrote all by herself, that is being covered by Luke Combs, she gets paid every time that song gets played.
Really?
And it's #1. And she is #1 on the country charts, a song that she wrote, sung by Luke Combs.
Wow.
I'm also hearing her version on the radio a lot more.
Oh, good.
Every time her song gets played on the radio, she gets money. Every time her song gets played on Apple Music or any of the other, she gets money.
Right.
So this is a good thing for Tracy Chapman.
Right.
So we should be very excited for her and her music, because she's just absolutely fantastic.
Right.
So that at least we're at least out of the sadness of what the Democrats have done. Now, she's probably a Democrat voter.
Sure.
But if I were her, I'd be a Republican voter.
So is the narrative in regards to this example that she came from a world that race was everything and broke through that and was able to pierce the veil and rise above, and yet today we're more divided than ever before, and yet she's just as relevant.
I'm gonna challenge you on the more divided.
Okay.
I'm going to say that the media tells us that we're more divided.
I like that.
I do not
like where you're
believe
going.
that we are more divided.
I agree. Good point.
Because everyone says Donald Trump's a racist, but they can't point to one thing. So I asked the question, well, name me one thing that makes Donald Trump a racist.
Sure.
Well, it's just everything. It's his entire political stance. I'm like, oh, okay, fair enough. Can you just name me one specific thing that I can talk to you about?
Right.
And then they cower and they go away. Well, I can't believe you don't understand.
Yeah, I can't believe you don't know every time he's been racist. Well, just name one if it's every time.
If it's every time, then just name me one so I can at least understand where you're coming from. So I don't think we're as divided as people say we are.
The perspective is that we are. So let me ask you this. What is the nexus to the racism is systemic but perpetuated by the Democrats? What is the nexus to that point to the example of this woman from Cleveland that broke the veil and is playing at Wembley? What was the, I guess, point to be made of her story?
Well, the point to be made of her story is that we are told that there's this horrible racism.
Yeah, that oppresses you and will never let you break out of your troubled place.
And when you read that particular story, because I'll reread the headline again. It was media's possessive. Yeah, outrage at Luke Combs covering Tracy Chapman's fast car underscores their obsession with race.
Okay.
So they have to, and the media is mad at it. I see our leftist white friends saying, "I can't believe Luke Combs covered this song. It would be like him covering Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," or right. That was done by a black guy, right? Okay, yeah, okay, good.
Swing Low,
Sweet Chariot, right? So it'd be just like that.
Well, it's just like that Disney video of what's the black guy singing to the birds that
Zippity Doodah.
Zippity Doodah's racist
the song
now.
of the South. Yeah. So it's this points out the media's outrage because and it just shows different headlines from different stories about it. But they're failing to realize what this did for Tracy Chapman, a black person who now has a #1 song and is making all this money back from this song again. She's probably going to go on tour again.
Yeah.
And she's going to be able to go make more money, and there's going to be a whole bunch of white people that go see her because black people generally don't like the acoustic guitar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But you're right.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, so who else? Who else, though? No one freaked out when, you know who Darius Rucker is?
Yes.
Hootie and the Blowfish.
Right.
No one freaked out when Darius Rucker covered Bob Dylan's song, Wagon Wheel.
Well, because it doesn't fit our narrative.
Well, it's
a
the
white
reverse.
guy stealing from a black guy.
But this is the reverse. So the
Or a
black guy
yeah, you're right.
stole a country song from a white guy. This is a white country guy stealing a song from a black pop woman. But no one freaked out about that.
You're right. And everybody loves singing Wagon Wheel.
Everyone loves that song, right? But nowadays, everyone knows Fast Car.
But also, can we agree?
Died.
You literally cannot enter the marketplace singing someone else's song without the license. So that person doing it was properly compensated.
Well, you can cover any song you want. Any artist can cover any song. They just have to properly.
You have to properly compensate them.
You do not have to ask for it. You don't have to ask. They generally do ask.
Well, because you don't want to let a courtroom sort out what the market price of that is.
Yeah.
So let us negotiate what you'll allow me.
Yeah, and
to pay.
generally the unions will, because so the artists pay into a music union, so they know when their song gets played, they get X.
Right.
And the producer gets X, and it goes on down the line. The
But
artist usually gets minus the last bit of X.
So let me ask you this: when you grab your guitar, you're playing at a venue, and you're doing Rocket Man.
Rocket Man, yes.
You just do that?
I just do that. Yeah.
Isn't there something to being a cover band you have to pay back to?
Yeah, so there are two different ways.
Again, your position is come find me.
Yeah.
When is
Well,
Elton John going to be at $2 when I'm
position.
playing?
Exactly.
But also, in the most legal sense, there would be some sort of realm where you got to look for license.
Unfortunately, that's the case. So I could either join the union, and then I would show the venue of which I'm playing, here's my union card.
Okay.
Or the venue would have to pay a fee,
right,
to have a yearly
a Pink Floyd cover band,
but a yearly fee to have artists play songs.
Oh, really?
Or they just do what most people do, and they
just come find me,
ignore it, and they're like, "Well, I mean, what are you going to do?"
Yeah,
because it's $250, and those guys bully. I mean, I had a place where I played guitar once, and the BMI people, the BMIs, those are the people that I still owe $800 for my 12 free CDs that I did under 5 different names.
So wait, what does BMI stand for?
I don't know. Well, that's the name of the publishing company, right? So you had Columbia Music, BMI
Gotcha.
Music,
Perfect.
right?
Perfect.
And so back in the old days, you would the newspaper would come, like when they had printed newspapers, and there would be this little thing in there, and there'd be 60 different tapes or CDs or whatever that you could get. You'd pay 1 cent. So you'd tape 1 penny, put it in an envelope, actually mail it back, and then they would ship you your tapes or your CDs that you got for free, except you had to promise over the period of 3 years to buy 8 more at regular club prices, which were usually $2 more than what it cost to buy them at Kmart.
Yeah,
back when there was a Kmart. But no one ever bought the CDs. We would just make up different names.
And you just get another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
That's how we're all doing
and that
it.
was longer than 20 years ago. And if I'm
That's
talking
how
to my-
that guy listening here is getting his Showtime subscription
There you go.
every month. He's got a new email address.
Careful, yeah. But so now they can't come after us because those companies have gone out of business, and it's been over 20 years now.
Sure.
So what they do now is they have people that scour the internet for my band is playing here, and then they search and see, does this bar have a license?
Right.
And then they just bully the bar.
Wow.
They bully the bar.
So again, now the bar who was just trying to sell bourbon and burgers is like, now we're in the business of having to negotiate music licenses.
Yeah.
I just wanted somebody to play the guitar on the patio.
Yeah, right. And then they ask the question, how many TVs do you have?
I'm going to tell you what, I don't want to, yeah, exactly, because you want to show UFC, but then you got to pay based on, again, not to go down the road, but I'm of the belief with AI, you've got this Actors Guild and Writers Guild protesting and everything else because AI is going to...
AI.
Oh,
They
no, but I
hate it.
love it. Because,
They hate
again,
it.
you can make Kanye West sing an Adele song, and it sounds like he literally did it, and it's perfect.
I don't understand it, but
But I'm of the belief that we're going to enter an era where intellectual property is not going to be so clean cut and easy to own. And that's kind of my position on like this show, the copyright. Like, listen, one, with a legal background, I know where I'm at, and I'm willing to fight you on the free market. Like, this is what's the tagline I'm trying to think of. Free use, something. I'm blanking out. Too much bourbon.
well, there's no such thing as too much bourbon. But
the free use exception. So it'd be that this is a political commentary, or I'm
Sure.
adding. What I believe is there's going to be so much content and an overflow of like who owns. I'm the person, just like the kid that made this image. Yeah. This never existed before he put it in an algorithm. Yeah. I'm the one that compelled an AI to make an Adele song sung by Kanye. Who wins? I made it. The program created it. It's you who wrote the song, and it's your voice. What party in here is owed what? At some point, the legal system's going to throw their hands up and go, it's the Wild West.
You're saying if somehow that became a hit, what would happen?
Yeah, what would happen? What would happen? If I made that, I did it, and then I post it on YouTube and it becomes the biggest thing. Who gets to sue who? It's Kanye's voice. It's Adele's song. It's Elon Musk's AI that he created, and I'm the one that gave it the prompt that made the gold. So there's going to be so much of that, and it's going to get so murky that I don't think we're going to be in a place where we can actually fight intellectual property. And I hope that, like, listen, have your real property. I don't want to live in a communist state where people can you owe part of your land or you owe part of your money.
Buy dirt, children. Buy dirt.
Real estate's where it's at.
That's right.
But I also think when it comes to intellectual property, I only see it going in a communist realm where you don't get to own Mickey forever. Now, I'm going to have Mickey Mouse singing a Kanye song. Come get me. Like, there's going to be too much. And
that's true. Disney didn't create it, but they created Mickey.
Right.
They still own the intellectual property to Mickey, right?
Exactly.
Or do
exactly.
They? I mean, how long
well,
does that
that's gonna get murky here soon. Like they have done a good job, and they have got a legal team that's impenetrable that continues to extend it. But at some point, that's gonna hit soon. It's gonna hit the end of its line, and at which point they'll just pivot to a new character that they hold all intellectual property to.
God, I'm scared to see what that character is.
Right.
All right. So before we go, I don't want to take over the show.
I know. Well, no, please.
But before we go to the final topic, did you want to try to solve the riddle? I can read it again to you.
Please.
Okay. What do the Democrat Party, the Ohio Communist Party, and the most corrupt union, which is the teachers' union, all have in common? This is a tough one. This is a tough one.
That's going to be my crippling part, but I would say disparity.
No.
The word I would use is they're all desperate and poor.
Yeah, so I would say yes.
They're all sitting there with their hands out.
They are desperate, and they are sitting there with their hands out. But here's I'm going to seal it up even a little bit more. They all want you to vote no on issue 1.
What's issue 1?
Issue 1, Ohio issue 1 is the one that makes it a yes vote, makes it so that we get to 60% to do an amendment to the Ohio Constitution.
Correct.
That's what we want.
Right.
We want to have, at least that's what I want.
Right.
Right.
Right. So why do they want you to say no?
They want us to say no because they want it to continue to be the 50% plus one, so that they can continue to bring in the lobbyists and the special interests whenever they have one of their nut job kooky things that they want to do.
Why do I need 60%, and why is 51 not sufficient?
Well, an amendment is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Right? Would you like to have the United States Constitution amended at 50% of the vote? Think about what
51?
The United States Constitution? 51%? Think about what the framers wanted.
But here's the way I look at it. When the Constitution was crafted,
yes,
as you noted that it was probably politically necessary, regardless if it was necessary or not. Slavery was not abolished, right?
That's right.
So at that time, at least for narrative's sake, it'd be safe to say that they created a constitution of rights and protections that did not think this was socially relevant. The writers may have, but they didn't act upon it because they saw the dangers of acting upon it. Sure. But the reality is, there's something to be said about socially, we as a community are not ready to abolish slavery. Then we became educated, empathetic. Uncle Tom's Cabin comes out, and we all come to realize this needs to happen.
Yes.
It was pretty close to 50-50. I mean, that's what causes a civil war.
Yes.
So it wasn't an overwhelming majority. And so I would be of the belief that if you can get, to me, my position would be utilitarianism. And not how we always say it, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. How John Locke, who created the concept, how he spoke about it. And it's maximizing happiness for the most amount of people. That's how the philosophy is actually written out. Not the greatest number for the greatest number. It's maximizing happiness for the greatest number of people. So there's something to be said about, I'm never going to make everybody happy. A good goal would be to make half the people happy. So if I can just break the crest of half, and 51 is a majority. It's not an overwhelming majority, but this is what satisfies the will of the majority.
Okay. So what happens when that same barely majority votes for tyranny?
Are we not doing things like that? I feel like currently that's something we're doing, and it's one of those like...
Well, we are in Ohio now. That's the point of trying to correct it. But
I would make my position would be that there is probably, I guess I can't say totally, but there would probably be legislation I could point to that is against the best outcome of the country. But if that's what the people want, one, I need to recognize that these aren't my people. It's kind of like idiocracy.
Sure.
Like the second in which we want the president to be sponsored by Mountain Dew, these aren't my people. And I should probably go look for where they went, because these aren't them.
Yeah.
And so here's what I like. I was listening to, and I'm glad I was able to find a way to weave this in because I wanted to talk to you about this, whether it was on a Wednesday night or not.
Yes.
I was listening
We'll probably
to,
talk tomorrow about
100%. But I was listening to a senator from New Hampshire talking. Here's a forgotten state that really is never really acknowledged. He is an elected libertarian.
New Hampshire's the live free or die state, right?
Correct.
Yes, they are. Yeah, the live free or die.
So you have, this is the tip of the spear of the beginning of politicians that are totally libertarian. They're not a Tulsi Gabbard who's on one team but really for everybody is a moderate. No, this is somebody who is running on the platform of, I hate bipartisanship, look for somebody outside of the two parties, I'm a libertarian.
Okay.
So that New Hampshire, and this, again, this is their narrative, but there's something cool from it. The narrative of these politicians from New Hampshire is that there's this huge libertarian wave coming through the state, and that these people are for dismantling the government, losing the government as much as possible. We need as little government intervention as possible.
Of course.
So the scary part is they are proposing an intention to secede, that they want to be a separate state, autonomous and libertarian.
A nation state.
A nation state. But what I love what they're doing in taking the reins of their state and enforcing the will of their people. The only thing I have a problem with, and the whole country will, and this is why it would never happen, you're actually never going to secede, but what makes this place so awesome and that we lose sight of is I don't like you, Portland. I don't. I actually don't like anything you're doing in Washington, Oregon, California.
Well, I know where I would build my wall.
But there's a reason we aren't living there.
That's true. Yeah, there's a reason.
And there's a beautiful point to when the COVID restrictions happened, California just up and left to Texas. There's something cool about we are 50 nation states, 50 different wills, 50 different countries.
Yes.
But we get to live under the same welfare, taxes, military security. New Hampshire, my friend, if you're not with us, you're against us, you'd be fucked. You don't want to fight us. But I also want to double down on you need us in numbers for security just as much as I, Ohio, need you for numbers and security.
Yes.
I think the future of this world, what I would love to see is a world of countries, states under one veil, right? One giant world with the 350 countries we have, but instead of countries, they're states. Autonomously police yourself and legislate yourself. If you don't like what the hell's going on in New Hampshire, skip on over to Vermont or come on down to Florida. That's the beauty of what we have. And so I don't want to lose sight of, one, that's a major piece of what's available to us, but also compelling people to take advantage of that.
But so that takes away American exceptionalism, though, doesn't it? American exception.
But let's just say instead of thinking the country at 60% to change, we're just talking Ohio.
We're just talking Ohio.
And let's just say I don't like that.
Well, the country is 2/3. So
but I guess here's my narrative. If in Ohio it's still 51 takes the cake. If I don't, and the cake that's being taken is fascism, which was your example. Mm-hmm. If I don't like that 51% of us is taking the arson, right? Like they're just taking the poison.
Yeah. The hemlock.
Yeah, right. Exactly. If I'm sitting here going, what
the
are
Kool-Aid,
we doing?
the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, we're literally drinking poison. I have the ability to find another state that isn't drinking poison.
It's true. It's true. The point of this this issue is to one, align ourselves closer to where our national constitution is, right? That's the first thing. 60% is, I think, a fair threshold for a people-generated vote. I do think it is that. Because if it's such a good idea, certainly 60% could pass it. But let's just say it stays there. And now we'll get a little silly. What if God changed the makeup of genders, which, by the way, there are two genders. No. There's just men and women, boys and girls.
Earth-shattering.
Yeah. And there were 51% men instead of 51% women.
Sure.
So let's suppose that switched. It became 51% men.
Right.
Okay? Let's suppose that happened. Men decided, chicks are into body counts. That's what these ladies like nowadays. So let's make rape legal. And they're able to get every single man.
See, I think
it's silly.
But again,
but mathematically it would be possible.
But again, yes, theoretically. But then there is a reality to we can't get all of Cleveland on the same page when it comes to our logo, let alone you're going to say all men can. I mean, you have beta cucks that have become feminists just so they can have a date with a woman. So I don't think theoretically, you're right. But let's just say, aside from just all the men ganging up together to be mean, because I don't think that's realistic. Let's just say men and women, 51% of them, disband statutory rape. That we live in a world of minor attracted persons, and they believe that children have the cognitive and biological ability to consent.
Well, that is a legitimate vote that could come if we don't.
That's my point. So let's just say a collective of delusional men and women, 51%, eradicate that. This isn't my home. These aren't my people. There's also 49% of us that recognize that this is wrong, and they're not my people.
But see, that goes against the founding nature of our country. And really, I mean, let's remember, we are not a democracy. The founders never called us a democracy. They always called us a republic.
A representative republic.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's what it is. Democracy is 5 wolves and 4 sheep voting on what's for dinner.
Sure.
We know who's gonna win that vote. That's democracy. Okay? We don't want a democracy. And American exceptionalism, the premise of it is that it's designed to protect the largest minority in our nation.
Sure.
Which is the individual. The individual person is the largest minority. And each individual person is part of that largest minority.
I resonate with that sentiment.
It has to be. It has to be hard, difficult to pass an amendment. It has to be. I mean, why do you think it's? I mean, think about the way that these bozos I don't know how they get a bill to the president's desk. I have no clue how it happens, because you have to get all of these people in the House and all of these people in the Senate to eventually vote yes on 100% of the identical language.
Sure.
Now, the way they do it is through bribes and all of those things. That's really how they do it. But I don't vote based on bribes, right? So my vote isn't based on bribes. But in order to be able to pass a law, just to pass a law, it's nearly impossible. Gridlock is what our founders wanted. That's absolutely what they wanted. They wanted that.
Your position in regards to the sentiment of this country and the founding fathers was to protect the minority and keep them as a player in the game.
The minority is the individual.
Resonates.
It has nothing to do with color of their skin or intelligence.
Literally. Just the lack of numbers and support.
The individual.
That resonates with me because I'm a huge supporter of the Electoral College.
Yes.
I don't want Texas and California fighting each other for what can happen in Delaware.
Well, then that's precisely what happens if we don't get to the 60% threshold, because Columbus and Cleveland and Dayton
will dictate it all.
I
hear you. At the same time, though, again, if these blue people from California and Oregon or whatever are just, for whatever reason, exodus, flying to Columbus and Cincinnati and Cleveland, then maybe that's the bet I got to lie in. Again, your position resonates with me because I'm a huge supporter of the Electoral College.
Yes.
The thing, though, on the other hand, is, and maybe this is youthful ignorance, but I have the imagination that in 50 states, 50 options, 50 possibilities, 50 worlds where that debate is happening, stalemate or not, I have to imagine you have the ability to find your niche, your people. And that goes back to my evil racist comments earlier in our dialogue, which was the point of the Civil War was states' rights. And I think there was a person that was all for freeing the slaves. I'm a principled person. And so because of that, I will burn bridges and damn people from my life and turn them off simply on principle. And so there is a person suffering that is owed what they're owed, but on principle, it is not to come from the federal government. It's to come from the will of us. And my will is to let this man free. But unfortunately, I am outwilled and outnumbered by my populace. I am a liberal. I say this all the time on the podcast. I am liberal to, I don't care what you're smoking or who you're having sex with on your property, as long as it doesn't affect mine, I'm liberal to it.
Yeah.
So in that theme, I should never be able to reach into your property and affect its well-being and its operation unless 51% of us believe so. Not an overwhelming number. I mean, let me ask you this. As a policymaker, like put you in the shoes of a lawyer or a senator.
Okay.
Where'd you get 60? Make that make sense to me. Why that? Why not? If you're already in here, you're looking for a majority. Why not 75?
Well, yeah. So
you just picked a number that's uncomfortably above 51.
It
has no basis. You're not tying it to something.
Well, it does. It does have a basis because it's still less than what the federal government requires for an amendment. We're talking about amending a constitution. It should be hard. The same organizations that support a simple majority, 50% plus one, in order to be able to change an entire state of how many?
Yeah.
Has 6 million people?
Yeah.
8 million? I don't even know what we have. Hopefully our friends
it's on the screen.
We'll look it up. Okay, put it on the screen. Of that many people, those same organizations, their constitutions require 60%. That was my Biden. Require 60%. So why is
But why 60?
I don't know why they picked 60. Why
So
is
to
their
me,
conversation?
It's not tied to anything. At least I can tell you if you go why 60.
Well,
I don't know. It's
because
just more than 51.
I really think it should be 2/3 of the vote. But
why 2/3? Why not just over the majority? You have the masses. There is a number of people that agree, and those that don't agree are inferior. I can say 51 shows that. 60 is just a policymaker pulled a number out of nowhere that's just, it's bigger than 51.
It's still, because it still has to be something where it's designed to be difficult to make a change.
51 isn't easy.
In Ohio, 51's pretty easy.
Because we're a very moderate state.
Because we are.
And so as a state that swings and changes its mind and grows, liberate me from my ignorance.
Do we want to keep doing the same vote every 4 years as Ohio's ebbs and flows on the same thing? Or do we need to say, okay, let's have a vote now to limit the number of votes that we have? Well, what percentage should we have for that?
Exactly. So I think that conversation leads to
So
this
we
has gotten
just
so ostracized that we need to just go to a simple majority.
a simple majority is the last step to a tyranny.
But a tyranny would
You
have
won't-
to have control over 51% of people.
Yeah, but you only get to. But I mean, come
And
on,
all that-
come on, Hitler. It didn't take long for Hitler to be liked before he finally said,
Right.
"Here's what I'm doing now." And then what did he get? He got the people behind door number 1. You got to put that thing up again.
But also, let's
Or door
agree,
number 2. They were afraid to say what they really wanted to say.
So when you have a world of people that, one, stand against it, but their narrative and opinion is moot, they're afraid to stand up against it, or they're too ignorant to know to stand up, that's where the numbers are.
So we have we have a new thing we need to work on. We need to convert our friend Alex here over to the 60%.
Here's the deal. Would your position, is this position only for amendments? And then how do you convince me that road doesn't lead to 60% for any change?
No, this is Ohio. This is
right, Ohio.
Yeah. So
Ohio's
any change
constitutional
to Ohio.
amendments
Right.
need 60%.
Yes.
How do I know that doesn't lead down a road to where now just my right to make weed legal in Ohio needs 60%?
Well, it's
Because if you can logically base that in that election, why can't it be for it should be everything.
That's fair.
And it's a number that was just made up by a politician.
And I think that's just like 6 feet apart was.
Yes.
Right. I think we're going to be able to figure out what can be done through legislation, right?
You make a very good, strong point in that if you had 48%, their position, whatever the topic is,
and this is a people's movement here.
I'm gonna go back on my position a little bit here
because we could also just vote for representatives that would pass the laws that we want.
True.
Right.
True.
And that's what Republicans have done in Ohio. We voted for representatives that are passing the laws that we want to have passed. The leftists voted they voted and they lost.
Right.
And so now they're trying to skirt around the system to say, well, then we want democracy. Well, sorry, darling, because most of them are darlings. This is not a freaking democracy. Right. This is a federal republic. And you know what? It should be hard to change a constitution. There's nothing wrong with making it easy to change a law.
Right.
It should be hard to change a constitution.
And I want to, again, as a free thinker, the position that I think lends itself to what you're describing and kind of is a hurdle I would have to confront. In a world where I want to live on just that 51%, I just want the simple majority. You were able to get the will of the people. The will of the people says X. Let's just say we're talking about issue 1, whatever you want to call it. We're now voting on issue 1. 45% of the people are educated and coming out with the right outcome. 45% of the people are ignorant and coming out with the wrong outcome. Then there's about 10% of people who are moderately educated, but also easily manipulated, or are pandering to people, or are simply ignorant enough to where they can't come to a conclusion.
Sure.
Now, major issues, constitutional issues, are weighing on 1%, but in this narrative, 10% of dummies. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that middle ground, like stand for something or stand for nothing.
Whether it's 50%
what
plus 1, that same bell curve still exists.
Well, so what I'm trying to point at is, I guess the refutation of my position would be if you hung on that 1% that makes or breaks the 50, you are putting all the chips on a person who, like you said, are all these issues going to waver every year? Like, how often are we going to... Now the deciding factor is left on a person who is undecided. They're undecided. They're not fully entrenched in the topic, and yet they're the swing vote in this conversation, which is dangerous.
I think that the way that Ohio government is set up, each and every person votes on their representatives, and we create the Ohio General Assembly, and they have their thing, right? All of us have voted, and the General Assembly, it is what it is. That is really the blueprint of what Ohio stands for. Now, I get where the people that are claiming, well, the gerrymandering is right.
That's the worst thing. Gerrymandering is the worst thing to happen to us.
And really, all you have to do is look at a map and just kind of go, well, this is silly because the map goes like this.
Yes, well, it literally follows one road. You'll have a giant box, and then it follows one road to collect this selection of neighborhoods.
Yeah, so I kind of wish first the vote would be, let's get rid of gerrymandering. And let's just start doing maybe counties.
Yeah.
And start doing a representative government of the counties.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Yeah, it would be. But it would, I think generally it would go against my way of thinking because I don't vote the way Cuyahoga County votes. I would never vote for any of the mayors that have been in Cleveland. So
you're fair.
You know what I mean? But it's true. Like if
you're right.
You they could set it up so that it could be representative of the counties and numbers and do it the way that our electoral college works in the sense of representatives and so forth based on population of county. I think you could do it.
I agree.
And I think you could get both sides to actually agree to it. But that's not the case. So here we are, and we have our General Assembly. They're there to make the laws. If they don't make the laws that the people want them to make, then we the people, have the ability to say, well, we want to make a law.
Right.
Right? So when the people do it, it's an amendment to a constitution. It's got to be difficult.
I agree with you.
It's got to be hard. It's got to be hard. I'm sorry, because I mean, there were times in this nation's history, maybe not in Ohio's history, but there were times in this nation's history where states voted for slavery, where states said, yes, we don't want the black people drinking from the water fountains.
Right.
So I don't ever want to get to that point because we are sliding to that point where it's going to be
where the majority of people want to cut off your kid's wiener.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that point. What happens if the abortion conversation goes not from we don't think that babies should be killed after their head comes out of the vagina, but what if that baby comes out breech and it has a penis and we wanted a girl? Kill that baby.
Kill that baby.
Well, we just need 50+1 to pass that. Would they do it? I don't know if they would do it or not.
I agree with your perspective in that it shouldn't be easy to make major impacts like that. But I also think the crux of your position really assumes that 50%, 51% is easy. I would want to make the argument that that isn't overwhelmingly easy. At the same time, though, we live in a bipartisan manufactured world, and it's literally 50-50. So it's a balance. My position is
50-50.
like it is. I want to pretend that it isn't easy to get a 51%, but that's kind of how our country is crafted.
Well, we do it all the time.
You're right.
We get 51% 50% plus 1 all the time. Every time there's an election, we get that.
Right.
Unless there's 3 people in the election. But every time there's a bill that comes up, every city, every county, every state initiative gets it. It happens.
Dude, I was sitting here thinking you were going to give me a riddle with like a funny punchline that laughed at Ohio Democrat. And here we are.
We're too serious.
We're in this. We're in this.
Now do you want some fun? Okay, so
yes.
So do you remember what the topic was?
I do.
Okay.
So we
go ahead.
Now this is coming out in August.
It's your show.
And so we have the Republican primary coming out.
Yes.
And so please give me the inquiry.
Okay, so we're going to write this down. We're going to write our answers down. But we're going to, and I'm going to hand him mine, and he's going to hand me his. And we're going to guess what the other one says. But my question is, during the first debate,
the Republican primary debate.
that Donald Trump performs in, because there's rumors that he's not going to perform in this most recent one, the first soonest one, the one that's coming up. What will be the first question asked of Donald Trump? I am certain I know what it is. And then we're going to guess what the other one said. I think we probably have the same answer.
I hope so.
I think we do.
So how do you want to do this?
I don't know. All right, so I challenged you.
So I'll read yours.
Do you want
me to take it?
Do you want to guess what I said first?
Well, my guess is obviously going to be what I put. That's my fear.
I think it's probably the same.
So I'm going to read yours.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to read your
guess. Okay, that's fine.
If you are nominated as the Republican president or candidate, will you accept the outcome of the presidential election? Go ahead and read what I put.
Do you still hold the position wrongfully that the election was stolen? That's funny. That's funny. Because now I'm going to presume that you do not think that he wrongfully holds the position.
I am but YouTube, I do not say that. I do not say that, I promise. Big George Orwell's Big Brother, I promise. I don't say that.
I am 100% certain that he was cheated out of this election.
Dude, you're telling me that the dead guy isn't the most popular president of all time?
However, this is comedy right here, because just reading the language, I could see Brett Baer going, Mr. Former Vice President, because they'll never call him.
Exactly.
No, Mr. Former President.
Never call him Mr. President.
No, but they should, because
which is what that's the law of the presidency.
Once you're the president,
you're always the president.
Or they'll just say, Mr. Trump, Brett Baer, Mr.
They'll
Trump.
never give him the respect of the president.
Do you still hold the position wrongfully that the election was stolen?
Already asserting.
That is hilarious.
Their narrative, dude.
Wow, I didn't even think about putting comedy into it. Do you think this is funny? You think this is funny to you? Do I look like a clown?
Here's how it works. In this world, if you don't laugh, you will cry. So you gotta laugh.
I get a little serious. But seriously, I really think that the very first question that he'll be asked is, if you're nominated for the Republican Party, will you accept the outcome of the election? And I think that's how Brett Baer will ask it.
I think yours is obvious. This is the more accurate way it will be presented in the election or in the debate. But literally, the connotation
is wrongfully.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really, this is what Brett Baer will be saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like that you presented this to us, because it gives the audience member something to look forward to. I want you, go to the comments. What do you think the first question will be to Donald Trump in the Republican primary? And let's all sit back and wait. I think we're all going to be surprised or delighted to see what it will be.
Yeah.
But it'll give us a little game that we can all play together.
I hope that's not the question.
Yeah, I hope we actually get to the crux of real political issues, but instead we like playing the...
That's all they're going to focus on.
Oh, yeah. Because that's all they got him on.
That's all they got.
And they only because they really don't have him on it. It's an issue that we didn't let anybody actually flush out to truth. So now we get to keep it in the gray area of ignorance and create our own narrative.
What's it like working in the courtroom industry, knowing that of the 60-some, it was about 60 lawsuits that were filed all around the country. Every single one was thrown out for standing.
Yep.
And they never got to discovery. Like, what's that like? Like, are you just disenfranchised with your industry?
So a lot of attorneys that see it for what it is. Politically, they're going to go, that's a crime, but that's law. Then the other part...
It's a crime, but it's law.
Right. And then the other half, that it carried out their will, they throw their head in the sand and go, that's how it was always supposed to be. So part of the problem of becoming a lawyer is the hurdles it takes. I just had a guest sitting there yesterday who was like, I think anybody should be allowed to take the bar exam. I shouldn't have to go to law school. I shouldn't have to pay corporations.
He watched that TV show Suits is what he did.
Yeah.
The first, if you haven't seen the first episode of Suits, you got to watch it. The guy didn't go to law school, but he passed the bar.
But again, that should be our America. My narrative to him was, I'm going through law school the whole time. There's no person I trust in this life more than my father. And it's totally effed up that my father can't, the state is prosecuting me to take away my liberty, and my own father can't even defend me on my behalf. That's so messed up. Like, that's so anti-American, but then also at the same time, we live in a country of snake oil salesmen, and you got to live with grifters, and you got to respect the fact that we need to standardize this so the masses don't get swindled. I respect that. But if you're going to make this test is what standardizes people, you shouldn't be gateway keepers for the entry to taking that test.
Sure.
So I go on that long narrative because I believe that the practice, I'm not what I was before law school. Neither were you're not. We all grow.
Right.
That's just time.
Yeah.
But also,
I voted for Clinton.
Right. But I'm also of the belief that law school does this unique thing where it really does change a person's way of thinking. And when you talk to other lawyers, you see that our brains were crafted similarly. I think a lot of people through their own training, like, a pro se person that needs to fight the law, they can also train that into them. But law forces you to think in a certain way. And so the 50% that get their will, they're tickled pink. And they're happy, they move on. The 50% that don't get their will, they were beaten and crafted in a way that they go, I see that I didn't get what I thought was right. I see that I didn't get what I wanted, but I also can see why it happened, and I have to accept it.
And what judge?
I don't love it, but I have to accept it.
What judge wants to be the one known to turn over the will of the supposed will of the people?
Exactly.
Or to question that?
Especially with the fact that it blows my mind that judges are politically affiliated to begin with. You should not have a political party. You're supposed to be neutral. You're supposed to be judging me on the facts, not because you're a Republican or because you're a Democrat. So I have an uncle who's a judge, who's a Democrat judge, ran as a Democrat, but his whole youth, take the attorney at my age, he was a Republican. But a Democrat Party seat opened up.
So he
the
became a
Democrat
Democrat.
Party looked at him and said, you could have the judge seat. You got to be a Democrat. And now this guy's beating the drum of pronouns and Biden's king.
So he actually
you have to.
He
have
drank
to
the Kool-Aid.
because you either get eaten by your party or ride the wave. And if finances and profession are incentivizing you to just surf it, baby, you're gonna.
Wow.
So lawyers are the wrong people to look to when you want to have an empathetic point. The courts, there is no empathy in that building. And the sad part is you will, to your inquiry, you'll look at a room of people that will acknowledge that, you didn't see justice. But then you're also going to have a room full of people that go, but that's the process.
Yeah. It's sad to me because all those people that signed the affidavits, right? They're either telling the truth or they're lying. It's one or the other. So right now, apparently, if it's true that there was no cheating, that every single one of those what do you call someone who signs an affidavit? An accedent. There's a name for that.
Yeah,
person.
an accedent.
Accedent, that's the word. Yeah, so the accedent is a liar and actually could be charged with perjury.
Right. Your affidavit is a sworn testimony to the court.
Yes. But in order to charge that person with perjury, You actually have to charge them and try them.
Right.
But we can't have that. Why can't we have that? Because we would know that the entire election was rigged.
How crazy is
That's
that?
my Joe Biden right there. I like ice cream.
And the kids rubbing my hair at the pool.
Chocolate chip ice cream.
Don, you gave me a lot of your time.
Oh,
I
God,
appreciate you giving me your
How long
time.
are we here?
350.
4 hours.
Oh, yeah. We're right up on there.
All right, so this is 3 episodes probably.
Yeah, we're looking at definitely do. So at least. So I appreciate you giving me your
Yes.
time. This was very fruitful and I think very dense. I hope to have you on again if you
Sure.
let me. But
Sure.
again, I appreciate you giving me your time.
Absolutely.
Otherwise,
Glad to be here.
guys, I appreciate you guys listening to us, especially for this long. If we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you can do to support this show is share this episode. Take that link and send it on your Facebook. Send it to a friend. If you liked it, it's most likely or not somebody else you know is going to like it too. We're fighting algorithms, and the best thing you could do to support us, again, we gave you a lot of content here for free. The best thing you could do is share it. Otherwise, hit that like button, subscribe us, dangle that notification bell so you don't miss us coming forward. We got a lot coming your way. So otherwise, you can find all of our content at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. But again, Don, thank you for your time, and I hope we get you on the next time. Peace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.